Welcome to the GreatBase Tennis Podcast. I'm Steve Smith, episode 179. Really looking forward to talking to John Valenti, the one and only. I consider myself to be a Van man, but John is a Van legend. Met him over 30 years ago. But let's get right to it. I'll give him a phone call. He has some stories to tell. What a great story. Rochester, New York, another upstate New York boy. Two types of people, those people from upstate New York and those who wish they were.
Hello.
John Valenti, thank you very much for being a guest on the GreatBase Tennis Podcast.
Happy to be here. Yes. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I was just saying that I'm a Van man, but you're a Van legend. We'll get into that afterwards. I also mentioned that
Sure,
two types of people in the world, upstate, how's it go? Those people from upstate New York and those that wish they were. Also say with New Yorkers, Hicks and Slicks, and you and I are a Hick, and the Slicks are the ones down by the city.
I've used that, and I have some more Steve quotes that I'm gonna bring out today.
Steve quotes. I'm honored. I'm like 99% Steel, baby, steel. I don't really have too many original thoughts, but let's get going. How'd you fall in love with the great game of tennis, Rochester, New York? Tell us your beginning in sports.
Yeah, starting with tennis. We'll go to my first tennis coach, Scott Thyroff was my first coach, and this is already, we've got one of your first quotes here. Little strokes for little folks. Nothing to take away from a 15-year-old Scott Thyroff teaching me tennis. But and you said this, and I like it. Usually when kids start out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, it's usually their coach is a 14-year-old girl who plays on the JV team, and she's more of a babysitter than a coach. And what you said, and I like it, that when you're starting the sport, you should have the coach with the most experience. Is that one of your was that one of the things you said?
Yeah, I think with Vic Braden, no such thing as little strokes for little folks. To our listeners, I met John, Tennis Corporation of America, Midtown Tennis. I can remember Julie Scott, who went on to play at Stanford. She came in and helped us with a demo to convince people that they should work on their forehands and backhands. But there is a clip that we have that with Julie in it. She's hitting a ball off a cone and drop hitting a ball, and young 4-year-olds next to her doing the same thing.
But yeah, what I'm saying is, it's like, you should be taught like proper technique and everything at this young age. And, nothing to take my cousin at 15 years old, just was basically hitting balls to me. And, that's basically how I started. And what, parent, they're going to pay Rick Macy to teach, 5, who knows how good your son is going to, or daughter is going to take up tennis, or are you going to spend $300 lessons with Rick Macy or whoever, like a, expensive coach, and then, your son has no interest in the game. But, Scott Thyroff was my first coach, got me into the game. I was playing all different sports. I was playing, baseball, basketball, 7 years old. I was playing, t-ball, and I was really good at t-ball. I was like the starting pitcher and everything like this, just to start it, just starting with sports. Basketball, I was dominating at like 10 years old at the JCC leagues and everything like this. Played soccer, played soccer in high school, basketball in high school, and tennis I played, as kind of a side thing as well, up until around 16 years old. And that's when I just quit the other sports and focused on tennis. But I had Dave Streel was one of my coaches kind of after Scott. And I remember seeing a young Jeremy Wurtzman and Streel. When you take lessons with him, he'd talk before the lesson, and everybody would be sitting on the bench, and listening to Streel talk. And I remember 3 courts over, there'd be a 6 or 7-year-old Jeremy Wertzman hitting the ball. I don't know if Streel did this on purpose, but you see this 6, 7-year-old kid just hitting the ball beautiful. And he's talking about, coaching you or whatever in tennis, and you're watching a very good, talented little kid play at a great level. So that was cool. And then let's see, I went to Mendon Ponds, also played there. I believe Jeff Frank was the coach there at TCR as well with him. And then Jeff Wagstaff.
Yep.
Went with him. Wagstaff was always made it fun, competitive, smack talking. Wagstaff had the games going, made it very competitive, very fun, and these are kind of like, how I got my start. I wish I had maybe, more technical advice when I was, starting at 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, had more, work on my technique, but, just in love competing and playing. And then, let's see, around 16 years old, I met you were at Midtown.
Yeah.
And Matt Nielsen, Chad Riley, Dave Kroll, and Jeremy Wertzman were all guys kind of around that time that I would play with all the time.
Let's go back. There's so many names, and I'm in touch with Jeremy Wertzman. I just talked to him the other day, and let's go back to the Thyroff. So I made a video for Brad's daughter not too long ago, but and you confirmed. I had down. I was 99% sure that you were related, but those guys, the brothers could really play. I've got down in my notes. Brad, I remember it was Robert Janacek was number 2 in the NCAAs, played 1 for UCLA, and we had a money tournament, and Brad beats the guy. Brad is somebody who didn't like to fly, as you know, but that guy could flat out play. And I remember Janacek going, "Who is this guy?" But and Scott, also an excellent player. Joe, the dad, I think he retired from Kodak. He retired from Kodak, but he did an internship to learn how to teach tennis with me. Great guy, Joe Thyroff.
Yeah, loves the sport. These were all kind of my influences and got me into the sport, as well as my dad and everything else. But my dad was a big basketball player, so I was starting out, with basketball, and kind of was really good at basketball, baseball, being an all-star starting pitcher at 10 years old. I was good at all these sports and everything like that, and tennis was another sport that I got into, and but at some point I stopped the other sports because basketball, I felt I was too small for that, and baseball, kind of 12 years old, you kind of just after travel baseball, and we almost made close to getting Little League World Series playoff kind of contention. So I was on the tournament team for that. And then, soccer, I stopped as a freshman. I played freshman basketball. I played freshman basketball with Ryan Blackwell, who was, went on to play at Syracuse.
Wow.
So it was like a freshman all-star team. So that was a good experience. And in 10th grade, I quit. I stopped basketball. I just said to the JV coach, I said, "Look, I got a chance to get a college scholarship in tennis, and that's not happening in basketball. So I'm gonna, focus on tennis at around 16 years old."
Your friend who played at Syracuse, he must have been awesome.
Ryan Blackwell, yeah, my
freshman teammate,
high school teammate. Yeah, he was on the varsity team as a freshman. There were a couple other kids on the JV team that was freshmen, and I was on the freshman basketball team, but I was one of the best on the freshman team. So I got moved into this tournament where it was only freshmen, and I think we ended up winning. It was so long ago, but I think we ended up winning that tournament. But basketball, did well with it, but 5'8", 150 pounds. You're not really gonna go too far with that.
What a great sport to become an athlete, though. First time I saw a Syracuse football game. I grew up with a kid, Johnny Alberg. We played hockey together, but his father was vice president of Syracuse University. So I went to watch a basketball game, and I was never around basketball. And I saw Dave Bing, who went on to play in the NBA. I'd have to tell people, or I tell people, that's the first time I really saw an athlete. The guy could just jump to the ceiling of the gym. But I do think tennis players right now it's a problem where they just play one sport. I'm telling kids all the time, go to YouTube, get a basketball, left-handed, right-handed, backwards and forwards, in and out of cones, and
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Tennis, is not an easy sport, and I'll get to a story. My friend Marshall Brown, who also played, on the tour a little bit. He coaches tennis, teaches tennis, right now, and he'll have a parent come to him and say, little Jesse, we got him into baseball. He wasn't doing so good. We got him into basketball, and soccer. He wasn't doing so. We're gonna get him into something easier, so we got him here in tennis for you. And he's like, what, tennis is harder than all these sports to play. To play well, it's not an easy sport. Where other sports you can kind of hide a little bit, and it's an individual sport. There's no hiding.
Well, a lot of it just starts with grips. I know in hockey, everybody has the same grip.
Yes.
Bottom hand is an Eastern grip, top hand is a continental grip, very much like a backhand. People are pretty much hanging onto a football the same way. They're hanging onto a basketball the same way, but it's just, people really get in trouble with having poor grips when they first start playing tennis.
And that was my problem. I was hitting all the way up until, playing even futures tournaments. I was hitting a backhand with a forehand grip, and just kind of my wrist, and that was definitely hurt me. I wish I would have tried to change it more and kind of stuck with it, but you get into playing and and you kind of
winning's confusing. So when I met you, you were winning, and you were winning on athletic ability. At that time, Matt Goble, who was recently here, and I asked if he remembered you, and he goes, I remember his father because I played basketball against him. But Matt played tennis at Trinity University in Texas. So when I got there, he was the best player on the staff. So, he's a PhD student, bright guy, and he came into a coach's meeting, and I threw my VHS tape, and it was a narrated slow motion analysis. And I said, Goble, watch this, and you got to change how you play and change how you teach. And, he was very open about it. But, I remember, met with you and your dad, and, when I showed up, people were like, what is this guy doing? He's making people stand in one place and shadow swing and drop hit balls. And, 100 years later, my son Conor was at the tennis club of Rochester. So I think he was like 3 or 4 years old when I was there. But he went back to Rochester years later. Remember, called up Greg Yahaya. You know that name, Greg?
Oh, yeah.
He was a pro at Midtown, great guy, and called him up. He was still there. And I said, hey, why don't you coach my son for a week? But Conor won the singles and doubles at the pro event at the University of Rochester. Or no, at the tennis club of Rochester. TCR,
yeah.
Actually, one of our students, former Deanna Rios, I think it's Deanna Kieran, and now she's the GM there. Beautiful city, though. Right. Rochester's a great place.
Yes. When you came in, I was 16, so I was kind of like trying to find a school. Didn't want to change my strokes too much. But I remember Chad Riley being there, and I was like, not jealous of him, but I was like, this is so cool. He gets to play tennis all day, and I'm I'm going to school. Right after school would get out. I kind of got my schedule where I'd get out at like 1 or 2, and I'd drive right to Midtown, and I'd stay at Midtown from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. every day, and just try to improve on tennis, work out, and just kind of fell in love with it, then, and enjoyed the competition and the playing.
So for our listeners, Midtown Tennis, Midtown Chicago is the headquarters.
Yes.
It's Tennis Corporation America. I think most of the clubs,
Right.
if not all of them, are named Midtown now. But I went in as a tennis director and trying to change the culture, many different steps to do that. One would be filming everyone, skill testing. But I remember I brought Chad Riley. I had a lot of help with Richard Hernandez in Canada, right around the Lake Ontario, bringing players down from Toronto. But Chad Riley went on to play at UNC. Seth Rose, I don't know if you remember Seth.
Seth Rose, yep, I was gonna mention him as well.
Yeah, he became an All-American. He was put into the Hall of Fame at University of South Carolina. They're actually both lawyers now, but so I brought those players in, and that was really nice of them to be there because to go to Rochester where there's all the snowbanks outside, but they both came from Florida to come up and just spend an entire winter season working on technique. But that did help the culture. But I remember yourself was another athlete. You were very athletic, but someone had a little more size on you who didn't have anything to do with us. But I used to talk to his dad all the time was Andy Columbo.
Yes.
What an athlete that guy was. Huge serve.
He's serving like 150. I remember playing at Midtown with him. I came back at, I had been playing. He might have been 18, 19, 20 years old. And he was the first one who was the small grip. He had 4 1/8 or 4 1/8 grips. It was unheard of. Now Nadal does that and all these guys. It was unheard of getting that wrist snap. But I remember him, in those courts are, pretty fast and they have a tarp, the tarp. And he, his sound of him cracking a serve 130, 140 and it hitting the tarp and just making an explosion sound. I remember club players, these ladies just having their social tennis, they ended up moving a court down because the noise of him hitting his serve was so loud. It was kind of like shaking the racket out of their hand.
He won the NCAA doubles with Mark Kovacs at Auburn. What a serve! I remember seeing him play at the futures level. He actually got a little bit too big, actually. I mean, when he was maybe a sophomore in high school, talk about Syracuse University. He looked like he could have been, been a halfback for them. Yeah.
I remember him was the first one with this small grip kind of thing, and that was it was great. It was great to have Chad Riley, Seth Rose. We had Jeremy Wertzman. We had Matt Nielsen. We had a good group of players. And to play,
Nielsen and Kroll, they went on to play at Penn State.
Both of them played at Penn State for a little bit, and good junior players.
That Matt Nielsen was. I mean, he used to get a little bit too tight. He just wanted to win so badly, but I would think of him as the hardest worker from those days.
Yeah, I worked hard too, but he definitely was focused, on tennis and everything like that, and he was a good player. Wertzman was a great talented player. I might have told you the story before where Wertzman would come to the courts and he would put his K-Swiss shoes on like they were slippers. Like he didn't even tie them tight. He just kind of slipped them on and waddled around the court and hit winner after winner on me. Just hitting the ball very clean. And everything like that. That was something I didn't have.
So many things with Jeremy. What a great guy. His brother Mark played at Ohio State. So to come out of Rochester, New York at that time and play in the Big Ten, that was a great accomplishment in itself. But to have an older brother, I know that Jeremy's father, Steve's a really good golfer. That helps out. I mean, to have that golfer's mentality. But one thing that helped out with Jeremy, he says, do you remember the story? He goes, how could I forget? One, I wouldn't let him forget it, but I called up Richard Hernandez and said, there's this 11-year-old kid. He's on our course, Tennis Intelligence Applied, and he he was already ranked 3 in the East. He had the it thing. He was winning before I got there, but he had very poor technique in comparison to what we, the standard that we put forth. And it was Michelle Greenwood. She's also a lawyer now, but Richard brought her, we had it rigged. It was just one set. And, I'm sure we had her all warmed up and Jeremy wasn't warmed up, but it's that persuasion is that we had the 10-year-old beat the 11-year-old, but we don't do.
And a girl beating the boy.
Girl beating the boy. And, but he got in line and with, yourself and Columbo. I mean, I just remember, in talking to you about it, just getting ready for this podcast, I thought you were younger. You told me you were 16 when I got there. I thought, because obviously you were smaller and people at that time, when kids are
turning 17.
Yeah. When kids are, I myself, I'm not very big now, but I was so small for so long. And, but I thought you were a little bit younger, but I remember meeting with you and your dad and going, hey, your son's really good. But that's where, to take some steps backwards, Kroll comes to my mind and Nielsen and Wurtzman.
Yeah.
There was some people who worked with us, like Dennis Vandermeer, match play and simulated drills. But, we're working on technique. And that really helped out Jeremy, besides having the it thing where he was a great competitor.
Yeah. Very, and he had his older brother, didn't he? I mean, I think you can maybe look this up, but Kalamazoo 16 doubles won 0-0 in the final with Scott Lipsky. So, winning Kalamazoo doubles.
At Jeremy's bar mitzvah, Lipsky's father was there. He died before his son. I believe before his son went to Stanford. Okay. They won two titles at Kalamazoo. And, Jeremy, I think, was 7 in the nation. But at that time, USTA, and there was some positives to it. They were just giving money to families. But they broke up. They didn't keep Lipsky and Jeremy together, and they sent Lipsky to Europe, and Jeremy didn't get to go. I made a video for Lipsky, and remember his father's a very smart guy. He said, we're going to take this tape and we're going to work on it as a father-son. He wasn't going to give it to the pro, because a lot of times, we don't mean to, we don't mean to incriminate the pro and go, well, you're being taught this and be more efficient to be taught that. But he also, like Jeremy, I mean, he could just compete, but he had great leadership qualities, I think, when it came down to playing doubles.
Yeah. And he ended up maybe top 30 in doubles or something like that.
He played for a long time in the tour. I think he has a major. I think it's mixed, and I'm sure it's mixed. And I talked to him a couple of years ago because, he was working for the USTA, but he was bringing players in from around Southern Cal, and he was doing some unique things that typically just the national level of the USTA do, as far as bringing kids in and playing matches, the sectional level. I remember just calling him up about that. But
The one more Wurtzman story. This is probably Wurtzman was in college now or something like that. And he's playing futures now. And I was fortunate enough. My friend Trent Aaron got me housing from Pete Fisher, which is Sampras's coach. Taught Sampras how to serve, or had a big influence on Sampras as a coach. So I'm housed with Pete Fisher, and one of his students at the time was Shane Laporte. Wurtzman plays Shane Laporte, and of course I'm watching the match to root for Jeremy, and of course he's watching the match, and he's watching Shane, and great match, and Jeremy wins. He beats Shane Laporte, and we're riding home from the club when Pete Fisher says, "Wow, how about that Wurtzman? Whoa, what a great player, what a talent, what a great." And this is a world. This guy taught Pete Sampras,
right,
14 Grand Slams, and he's saying how good Wurtzman is. Yeah, so I kind of was. I was like, yeah, I know. I played him when he was 11. He was beating me at 12 years old, and I'm 17, and he was
Oh, he was beating everybody.
He was beating me. I mean, I got him a few times. He got me. It was pretty close. But I mean, come on, I'm 5 years older, and that's a big 17 and a 15-year-old is a big 17 and a 12-year-old is a big, physical difference.
Yeah, we'll get down and we'll work towards the pro tournaments. But I was at a tournament. You were there, and Jeremy. This lets you know how competitive he is. He played Robert Steckley, and he beat Steckley. And I was there with Jeremy, and Steckley was one in Canada. I spent a lot of time coaching him. Spent a lot of time with Ishvan Toth and Richard Hernandez, but they would send him to me. And then I ended up being in Toronto and spent a lot of time with Steckley. But Wortsman came off the court and goes, I wanted to beat that guy so bad. And I said, why is that? He goes, because I never beat him before. And it was the same thing. They were. I mean, I'm not sure how many years older that Steckley is. How many years he has over Jeremy, but Steckley was so fast. One time Federer goes to the Canadian Open. He didn't have a hitting partner, didn't have a coach. So I think it was Kirkwood, gal who was with Tennis Canada for a long time, told Federer that he had a hitting partner. He says, it's Robert Steckley. And Federer said, I always wondered what happened to that guy. He had more talent than any of us.
Around the same age then.
That was so fast. 81?
Yeah, I'd probably imagine. He went to University of South Carolina as well.
He just stayed there 1 year. He didn't finish there. He went to Lander. He won the NCAA's, the Division II title.
We played them when I was at UNC Charlotte. I remember playing. I didn't play him personally, but our team played him, and I remember him being on the team.
Going to Steckley. I remember we worked with Robert. I said, Robert, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go. You're not going to hit the books. You're going to come home, hang out for a while, and go back to a Division II school. And I told him, I said, you'll win the national title. He did. Let's go back to Dave Streel. I remember meeting him. He's a great guy over with the Harley School.
That was kind of one of my first starts with tennis was the Streel 1987, 88. So I was 11 years old, and they had 3 courts there, and those were lightning fast, the fastest tennis courts at the time. They were like a rubber surface on top of the court that the ball would just skid off of them. And we have Andrew Columbo hitting serves. This was later on, but that was pretty much. Yeah, but he was the coach with the. I don't remember the other pros there, their names or whatever, but he coached a lot of Rochester tennis players.
I remember he was an
athlete. Everybody.
He was an athlete. He loved tennis. But one thing about the Harley School, TCA, Tennis Corporation of America. I mean, I'm sure back in the day I had a better acronym for TCA. I mean, a lot of good people, but it was just business. It was just the bottom line. I knew within the first few days working there, I said, well, this isn't going to work for me because there was an empty bay of courts. At one point, it was 16 indoor courts. So there's 4 empty courts. I went and I turned the lights on.
Is that Midtown?
Midtown, yeah. So I spread the junior program out. And then I was told afterwards, you can't do that. I go, what do you mean? The courts were empty. I went to the court sheet and just turned the lights on. And here we go. Spread the players out. And they had a policy at that time. And I know there's a ton of overhead, a different overhead than I deal with every day. But they had six people.
Heating in Rochester.
What's that?
The heating bill. But go ahead.
Yeah. Heating, light indoor courts, 7,200 square feet per court. But yeah, they it was more of a business. But I do think what went on at Harley, because it was just a small private school, I think it was more user friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another quote. Kyle Mayberry is a coach in Western Florida, and one of his quotes was, "Tennis is a business." That was one of his quotes, and the other one is, "In tennis, you either have it or you don't." As far as the talent part or the it thing or whatever, whatever there is. So
Jeff Frank, I remember
But,
meeting with Jeff Frank. He was at, what'd you call it, TCR?
TCR, I believe he was at TCR and maybe one other club. But
Yeah, I
he was
think
from
they bought a
Texas
small
originally.
club. Yeah, I didn't really know him that well, but he seemed like a good guy. Wagstaff, I got to know though, and Wagstaff, when I got there, he was a Pied Piper, and
Yes.
actually, when I was Doug Cash, who was the CEO, Chief Operating Officer, he told me years later. I went in with the hope of being an influence on the tennis teaching. They had 55 indoor clubs. But when I went, the pro staff had a lot of problems. I was not there when a guy by the name of Paul Lobbin and Roy Coopersmith, they were the leading pros.
Yes,
And
Roy was also one of my other coaches at Midtown. Was Roy?
But it was the GM at that time. The coaching. Doug told me years later to go in and get all the coaches on the same page and working together. And yeah, I mean, it's a flashback, but I can remember all the things that were done at that time but Jeff, one thing really helped me was his wife, Grace Wu. She taught high school physics. So, okay, she teaches physics. So she's somebody I can talk to about tennis. And then she had gone on vacation to I don't want to say Saddleback. That's the college in Southern California. Saddlebrook.
Saddlebrook.
You're a Tampa guy.
Right,
I spent so much time
around the corner.
Yeah, I spent so much time at Saddlebrook. So we used to, during the summer and then during the Christmas breaks, and I remember sending Craig Tiley. He was with me for 7 years, and this is his time of year as the CEO of Tennis Australia now. But she told me, I met this guy, Craig Tiley, and then he showed up for Christmas. And then she put two and two together, and then she was telling her husband, Jeff, you need to listen to this guy. And so I was winning Wagstaff over because, he was at that time not a technical coach, but I love how you said this, the smack talking, and he made it fun. He made it competitive.
A lot of games. Love tennis too. I mean, grass court in his backyard. So
he
built his own grass court in his backyard. So
But yeah, there was just a lot of different reasons. There was a lack of trust, and everything was about the bottom line. And of course, tennis, in all fairness to TCA, indoor tennis. I had traveled and done a lot of clinics and workshops indoors, but that was the first time it actually worked indoors. But yeah, I remember Jeff, and I've had people from Rochester come and work with me, but I understand Streel recently retired, but I know Wagstaff's still going at it. It's good. How about your cousins, Brad and Scott? Are they in tennis at all?
I think Brad has some clients here. Brad strings a lot of rackets. He got kind of into that a lot. I mean, we had a discussion here. I was fortunate enough to go back for Christmas and talk to him last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And we were going through how there's a girl here and she's top 100 in doubles. Quinn Gleason is her name. She's top 100 now in doubles. And he was saying, it's a really good accomplishment. And I said, look, what you did, I think is a better accomplishment. You were part of a team that won 3 Grand Slams. And that's what I'm talking about is Venus and Serena Williams. He was their personal hitting coach during the U.S. Open, 99, 2000, and 2001. And he was with them, and they won 3 slams. I mean, you are there from the beginning of the U.S. Open to the end of the U.S. Open. What an experience, winning the whole time, and you're sitting there in the player's box, part of that, win. And he was... He liked how I said that, but
he like yourself as a story to tell. I've talked to Brad. I have to get him on the podcast. He was with besides who it was Novotny, right?
Yes, Yana Novotny, and then got Venus or Serena didn't have someone to hit with at the time. And Brad said, "Hey, to Richard Williams, hey, I'll hit with your daughter or whatever." And then it just kind of clicked, and they stayed together. And Brad, I mean, the guy, super fast, great ground strokes. He would serve underhand, and because he had a rotator cuff uh, problem, so he was serving underhand and winning matches. At
Yeah, no, he was perfect for a sparring partner because he he could run all day and not miss, and he hit a big ball, and we have to get Brad on and have him tell that story. One thing with the cost of indoor tennis, Joanna Toke, Matt Nielsen told me, ended up for some reason talking to him briefly on the phone. I think maybe somebody I was teaching was applying because he's the coach at the University of Rochester, but she got to the semis twice of the Division III finals, and they met with me, and it was very cost prohibitive. But I taught the brother, made a video. I said, I'll make a video. I'll work with you. You come out and watch the practices, and when you just rent courts late at night and teach your sister how to play. And he was a few years older. That's a flashback from that experience. How about some of this? How about some of the Midtown pros? Do you remember some of those guys?
I listened to. I remember Jeff Jagfield. I remember that name.
Yeah.
Gary Moore. I remember that.
I love that guy.
The older guy, and then we have Greg Yahaya.
Yeah.
And Wurtzman said the Prince Mono. What's the thing that came to mind? He was the Prince demo guy, and there was probably another guy named Joe was there. Man, gosh, my mind, I can't really remember.
That's great. Joe McMahon.
Joe McMahon, there we go.
Yeah,
there was one other guy.
He became a great tennis teaching technician. Jeff Jagville, I've been in touch with Jeff. He was a GM of a pro. He was a general manager at a club in Connecticut. I know he just recently changed his job. He married a gal from the front desk, Jackie. They're still together.
Okay. I went there every day after school. I went to Midtown pretty much every day after school for
great facility.
Years.
Richard Bodian was there. He's in Connecticut. Yes. He was working the same place as Jeff Jagfeld. But I remember Gary Moore, old guy, everybody who used to run drills. And I remember sitting down, I said, I'm going to make a flyer for you. More drills with Gary. And, just spelled it, his last name, he obviously spelled it with different than the word M-O-R-E, M-O-O-R-E. But he was similar to what Jeff Wagstaff was doing, but Jeff was doing it with juniors. He was doing that match play with adults. And, I understand that teaching can be a service, it can be a disservice. But I do remember saying, I could help you out. I said, I've got these kids that are, because Midtown had 4 houses across the street. Yeah. And I was there so many hours. I said, okay, I'm going to live in one of those houses. And I put juniors that were there full-time in one house. And then I had visiting juniors.
Chad Riley.
Yeah, visiting juniors. And Riley, and he hit the ball just like Seth Rose, like really, really well. But I tell those guys, I said, go do your homework, and then you go over and help Gary Moore with drills. And, having 2 juniors like that hit the ball really well, that helped him generate more revenue. So that was a positive.
Yeah.
Wurtzman, we got to get this in for Wurtzman quickly, but Yahaya, he just loved tennis. I remember being there and helping him with his topspin backhand. I mean, there was pros from other clubs that were coming in, a couple that got videos made and they're working on their technique. But I remember Yahaya, he was an artist. He just wanted to hit his new topspin backhand. And I said, no, you're going to play this kid Wurtzman today, and you're going to slice your forehand, slice your backhand. You're not going to try to drive one ball. You're going to dink it over the net, and you're going to lob it. And you're going to junk them to death. And so anyway, he ended up winning that set. And I said, then I remember telling him, I said, we're never going to let you play that kid again. We're just going to, we're going to grind him and grind him and grind. We eventually did, but you can't let him play.
Like that.
You can't let him play the next day because you got to let that loss sit.
No. Build the fire.
I think Joe's out of tennis, but I remember, he's over the years came to visit quite a few times, but he really took to the video. I mean, he was a great tennis teacher. Mike Larscheid is somebody I'm still in touch with who was there. Willie Schutte.
Another guy.
Willie Schutte's got out of tennis, but Coffee with Willie. Yeah, he was, very good to
I
be the
remember.
social coordinator. Dave Bone was the administrative coordinator. I
I think
remember they wanted to fire Greg Yahaya, and I'm the tennis director. And they call me in, and I go, "You can't fire that guy." I said, "You got him in the wrong position. You have to be super organized to run a league. Just put that guy in charge of adult tennis instruction, and he will be a superstar."
gotcha.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
tell us about getting from Rochester to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, college. Looking at schools, we had Ron Dyson. He was another
No, there's a guy. That was one of the pros
coach.
that came in who had video made.
Yes.
I remember making a
So
video for Ron Dyson.
so Ron knew the coach at Duquesne University. This guy Tony Smith. I don't know. I can't remember his last name. I mean, he's my coach. I should know, but he was my coach. I played 1 year at Duquesne University, and actually ended up getting up to number one. I went 9-0 in the fall season, and went into the Rolex IPA that ended it. I remember Michael Russell being there,
Wow.
I I lost. I was probably one of the weaker players there, but a good experience to get into that. And then I was looking to get to a little better tennis school. Duquesne University had 3 courts on the campus, and we'd play our matches on 3 courts. College tennis, Division I, with 3 courts.
Wow.
But you'd play 3, and they were like right in the middle of the high rise. You'd look up, you'd see I don't know if they're still there. I doubt it. I don't think so. But so Duquesne University was my first school. It did pretty well there, and then we went to transfer to. I remember we even went on a spring break trip, and we played the University of Central Florida, and I ended up playing 1 and beat their like number 1 player, some maybe foreigner from Germany or something. Gail Falkenberg was the coach. She's like a legendary tennis player now, but I remember somehow that she was the coach there, and we were on spring break, and I'm a freshman trying to keep up with the other. We had Steve Bagley on the team, which is another Rochester guy. Walt Willoughby, a guy named Jeff, and they liked to party, and we were drinking. It was a spring break. We were drinking or whatever. I don't know, somehow the guy beats me the first set 6-0, and I went to him and I said, "Look, I drank 10 beers last night. What'd you do?" Something like that. And I'm a freshman, and somehow I start playing better, and I end up beating him. I end up beating this guy in 3 sets and playing number 1 for UCF. Now, they might have been playing their number 2 player at number 1 or number 3 player at number 1, but regardless, it was a great win, and I ended up using that to look at different schools, and I contacted a couple different schools. Kind of UNC Charlotte was one of them. Coach Jim Boykin was the coach there,
wow.
and he accepted me on the team, and I was the only American on the team, and we started. We ended up. Now this was a different level. We ended up even getting a national ranking, I believe 52. And it was the first time UNC Charlotte had ever gotten a national ranking. The only American on the team in the top 6, I want to say. We had Sasha Park from Germany, Jan Paulmuller from Germany. We had Jeff Kuchma from Canada, John Carlos Violi from Canada, Jesper Hoska, I can't even say his name, man. From maybe Netherlands, Amsterdam. We had Thomas Augustin from Denmark. And yeah, all these guys. And then another year we had some Swedes later on. The next year we had Jacob and Ola Johnson. So I was the only American. We had Jonathan McGovern, the other American on the team. He was in the doubles line. Me and him we're kind of the only two Americans. Made a great road trips, great times at UNC Charlotte. Definitely had a little of, I believe it's called FOMO, fear of missing out, as far as the college experience. Would stay up late all the time and, go to parties. And I don't think tennis was my number one focus in college. I was definitely there, definitely went to every practice, worked hard, tried hard, fought every match, but obviously could have been a little better on the time management, and studying was definitely not. I definitely wasn't a good student to start with, and then, but I'd like to say they graduated or they let me out. Either way. But I did graduate, and then I started to play pro tournaments with Ryan Fleming, another UNC Charlotte guy.
Yeah,
so he was American as well. So
we need to talk about Ryan Fleming. I don't know if you know, he spent so much time with us now. I'll tell you his story. But going back to partying, Rich Bonfiglio is the head coach at UPenn, and he spent a semester with us. He was a year older than my son Conor, and I went to the finals. It was in Lakeland, Florida Southern Division II school, and Conor had beat some really successful players in D2. I think one was back to visit. It was a fundraiser where the alumni were there, and you could just tell that I showed up. I just knew that everybody in this tournament had been partying, all weekend long. So anyway, remember Rich Bonfiglio helping Conor through that. He won this tournament, and he ended up beating some people with some prestigious credentials in Division II. But I remember walking out of there, going, I don't think Conor played one guy that wasn't just totally hungover. But a win's a win. He didn't really know that. Going back to Jim Boykin, I was the tournament director of the NJCA, the National Junior College Tennis Tournament, for several years. And he used to bring a team from one of the Carolinas.
Anderson.
Yeah,
Anderson.
Some South Carolina.
Anderson, South Carolina, because he had all these plaques and trophies in his office. And talk about a start. His office was like a broom closet when I got there. It was about 5 foot by 6 foot, or about 8 foot. And Sasha Park, Jeff Kuzma, these guys can relate, and I hope they listen and remember that. And Jim as well, and his son. His son also coached at UNC Charlotte, Billy Boykin, but that school has updated and everything like that. But he would have all these pictures on the wall, how they were maybe national champs or very, very highly ranked. Was it junior college then?
The tournament, I remember one thing about Jim Boykin. I mean, everybody liked him, but he was so grateful. I think Craig Tyler, who's running Tennis Australia now, we tried to do more each year for the tournament. And we actually had a coaches tournament where, maybe a coaches round robin if they wanted to play. And, he was very, very appreciative, very thankful of everything we did. But I know he was very successful at the junior college level, knocking on the door to win the title for many years.
Yeah.
I did talk to his son one time. I talked to his son one time, and, I had, I didn't know that he was at Charlotte, then his son took over. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. That is right. And Jim would, one story of him, he never, no matter what, if you were on his team, you could not wear footsie socks. You could not wear the ankle socks, or he made it. You were a girl or something. You'd be on the girls' team.
Homophobic.
We're gonna get you on the girl. Yeah, we're gonna get you on the girls' team. And another story, we complain that coach, why are we practicing outside? It's so cold. Charlotte gets a little cold. As you know, you're Raleigh. You were in Raleigh for some time, so spent some time in Raleigh, so it got some cold. And he would we'd be at practice and we'd complain, and all of a sudden we look over at him and he's got his shirt off, and he says, "You guys are a bunch of babies. It's not cold out here. and he'd have his shirt off. And we kind of anybody on his team would get a kick out of
the footsie socks. We had coach from
socks. No way. You were not wearing those on his team. You're on his team if you're wearing those.
We trained a coach from Poland, and I remember he told the kids, the boys, he said, "You got to wear boy socks. I mean, your calves look so small." Then if the poor kid goes, they're worried about their tan line. Not a good comment to a real coach. But my son Conor, he transferred from Florida State to Ohio State, and I said, "Okay, it's up to you. Pick out 3 schools." And he picked Oklahoma to look at, Texas and Ohio State. Went to Ohio State, but so John Roddick was Oklahoma. So John Roddick calls me up, and I said, "Well," I said, "you got my vote if you can just promise me one thing." And he waits, and I pause, and I said, "Well, you got to tell your little brother, Andy." By that time, he was off the tour, and he's playing Exos, and he's wearing footsie socks. I said, "You got."
Oh yes, he was.
I said, Agassi too, but I said, "You got to tell your little brother, yes. He's got to start wearing some men's socks." I remember John Roddick going, "I can't believe you said that." That's that's the best thing I've heard in a long time. So the message for those: wear men's socks, don't wear girl socks. I should say women.
Tennis socks are always crew socks. That's just the typical tennis socks.
I guess in that sense, it's okay to say men's socks and girl socks. But I was corrected a long time ago. I remember. You being from upstate New York. When you're from upstate New York, you meet people from New York. I remember this woman telling me, I said, "Okay, the guys over there and the ladies over there." And she said, "Don't ever do that. When you say guys, you say gals. You say men, you say women. You say gentlemen, you say ladies and gentlemen." And it's just, it's one of those things. Okay, I like that. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to train myself not to, or correct myself when I say, if the girls are over here and the guys are over here, that's not incorrect, or that's not correct. Was Paul Lubbers? I think he did his PhD work. Was he part of
UNC Greensboro? UNC Greensboro, but I did look at that school as well, so I did meet him. But I did end up settling at UNC Charlotte, and Charlotte's a great city, and I have 3 properties there to this day. I still have them there, but that's just kind of a different story. We'll stick to that.
Yeah, we got to get into. You're a businessman. I need to take lessons from you. But tell us about Ryan Fleming. Ryan came to me when he was like 27, 28. He had tennis elbow, and I said, "Your elbow's so bad. Let's just teach you as a lefty." At one point, I would say he was playing 5-0 tennis with his left hand. He initially went to Clemson, played for Creasy.
Yes. But he ended up at UNC Charlotte, and after we both graduated in 2000, the year we graduated, and we said, "You know what? Let's travel." We were friends, too, off the court. Had the college experience together. Had fun together, went to parties, whatever. But we said, let's try to travel and play. So he was the first. He was with me for my first maybe 4 or 5 tournaments, out of my 300 plus pro tournaments I played, 500 plus pro matches that I played. But he was with me at the start, and we his story. We said, "You know what? We're gonna get housing," and we just knew people. We started in October of 2000. Hattiesburg, Mississippi was my first tournament, and we had a friend we stayed with there. Then we went to Louisiana, and we ended up getting housing from a girl who was running the tournament. Ryan kind of sweet talked her or whatever, so we got housing there, and then we ended up starting in January. We got housing for all 3 tournaments in January. And our thing, and he said to me, and we said, "You know what? If we can find housing within an hour and a half of the tournament site, we're gonna do it, because I'll drive 45 minutes, you drive 45 minutes, and we'll just do it." So I don't think we ever stayed that far away, but we were able to play our first 5 tournaments without having any. I remember our first we stayed in a locker room in South Carolina where he coached. He's like, you know what, they leave this door open. We can crash here for the night, and then we kept going to Florida or whatever, and then we had housing on there, and that was when I started with the van, and we both had traveled in my van. Mercury Villager minivan was my first travel. We're gonna talk a little van life.
Yeah, let's go van life. But one more comment on Fleming.
Yeah,
great
for sure.
guy. I'm supposed to go.
Played well, lefty. Could hit left-handed overhead.
Yeah. He really got into technique. I'm supposed to go do a workshop in Charlotte in March. He's part of a company called Tennis Block. He's the head tennis guy, not the administrative guy, but the lead instructor. At one point, I had, just trying to help my son, is the finances of pro tennis and lots of mistakes. My mistake first. I should have met with those guys. The three of us should have got together. But trying to keep somebody going on in the pro tennis level, I mean, it's a challenge. Financial attrition.
We'll talk about that.
But just his athletic ability, his flexibility, nutrition. But yeah, I thought that they could have helped each other out, but that was a short-lived relationship. But that's how much respect I have for Fleming, is that if it had worked out, I mean, he could have helped my son in many different ways, but it just didn't click at the right time.
Gotcha.
But van life, I lived in a van for 2 years. I've got all sorts of van stories. 1 year playing tournaments, because I was told, hey, you have to have a ranking, you have to be a player. If you're going to be teach tennis, you have to be able to play tennis. I do think it's a bonus if you can play tennis. But yeah, the second year I just traveled around, to camps and clubs. I mean, anybody who was anybody in tennis teaching said, okay, I got to go watch this guy teach. But yeah, you're a van legend. How many years were you in the van?
So 2000 or 2001, if you want to say, to 2010, 10 years, 10 years I had the minivan from 2000 to 2003. Then January 2003, I got a conversion van, and that was short-lived, about a year and a half. And then 2004, I got the mini school bus, which pretty much most of the people know me from that. Definitely, my tennis didn't make me famous. The van kind of made me not famous, but more recognizable. When it was the mini school bus and the stringing rackets. So it was about 10 plus years
with
living
with the bus. You had that rigged up so well, and I could really appreciate it because, I say, well, the van, different view every day, different neighbors, but it's like, okay, there's no. I think you had it set up so much better than mine. We had an ice box, and I say I traveled quite a bit.
I had a refrigerator.
Yeah, you had it down, but we had an ice box. I traveled a lot at one point. The year I played, I went solo, and I was going from one tennis facility to the next just to study tennis, teaching. But I played with an English guy, playing lots of doubles, singles and doubles throughout Florida mostly. With van stories,
so,
go ahead.
So I had the Mercury Villager, which was a minivan at first, and the first time I stayed in it was in Mobile, Alabama, in 2001. That was the first time I actually ended up sleeping in there, where I didn't have housing, I didn't have a place to stay, and it was fine, and got more and more used to it. And basically, I thought it almost became an advantage because it was the same bed. I'm sleeping in maybe a hotel is more comfortable, but I didn't feel like, staying in there hurt my chances of playing in the tournament. And the expense is the main thing that usually puts everybody out of the game. Either you have to have just very, very rich parents, or you have to just win and win and win and win to not. And I didn't want to spend the money, and wanted to keep playing. And yeah, I definitely wasn't winning every tournament and all the time. And but it has been done now in 2001, Peoria, Illinois. There were two brothers, Ignacio Gonzalez King and Pablo Gonzalez King, and they were living in a van. And Ignacio won the tournament. 2009, March 2009, Lester Cook was in a motorhome and
Lester
won the
Cook?
tournament.
Hey, Texas A&M.
Won the tournament from the motorhome. Won the tournament, so it's possible.
I think it's definitely it's more common in Europe still to this day. I think the weather, certain parts of this country, it gets so hot and humid in the summer.
Yeah,
makes it tough. Rob Krychek, father of Austin Krychek, he's had motorhomes for years. He's always talking to me about get a motorhome, go on the road, and train tennis teachers on the road, like Mats Wilander. Have you read about Wilander on wheels?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I read about that. But the big thing, I think, in 2004, when it happened in Tampa, and I've settled here, the bus, which was used for public transportation in the city of Tampa, my good friend Kevin Arias, and at the time there was no Craigslist and this and that. He found it in the newspaper, May 2004, $2,200. I used almost all the money I had to buy it. And if you're going to do this, if you're going to do the van life, get something you can stand up inside. That is the number one rule. No matter what, get something where you can stand up and walk around inside. It is, a game changer. Totally worth it. And then number two, park in the shade. Park in the shade.
Now you say that, the van I bought, it was yellow. It was a Ford, had two white stripes, so it looked like a tennis ball. It was cool. And my next door neighbor growing up in upstate New York, Barney Hagan, he was a carpenter, and he had fixed it up. Then my brother's wife, my sister-in-law, Patty, Patty Hartnagel, she fixed it all up with curtains and, I
had curtains. My mom helped me.
Yeah.
With all that. And, I had a good setup. I remember Kevin King, who is a doubles coach of Chris Eubanks now. His dad, he was playing the tournaments. His dad his dad walks in there and says, "Kevin, I want you to see this. Not even a pencil is out of place in here. Everything has a place." And I'm organized. That was one of my gifts or whatever, to be organized like that. And, so that was I had a TV, I had a DVD player, I had a refrigerator, microwave, I had a bed, stringing machine, I had a bike. If I wanted to go, not go too far, and it was my home, and I had dreads, and
the dreads.
People knew me because of the dreads, and this guy's living in a school bus stringing rackets, totally outside the box.
You had the best abs too. You had the best abs. You had to be doing sit-ups somewhere.
Good shape. Yeah, working out all the time, and so one of the quotes, or one of the stories of a van story. Nothing really dangerous, because usually I would try to park at the tournament site or at a hotel. So I would park at this La Quinta hotel, and my other tournament players' friends were staying there, and come in and eat breakfast or whatever with them. So I had breakfast covered. And in my return, I give them a ride to the courts. But I'm sleeping in there one day, and I'm in the back, and then these ladies are the housekeepers. So kind of a real husky, lady, big husky lady, and it's a mini school bus. It's a short bus, and I'm parked there, and I overhear her talking to her other housekeeper. Nothing against housekeeper. I'm a housekeeper now, but nothing against housekeeper. She says to her other housekeeper, she goes, "That's where the retards sleep." And I looked out the window and I said, "Oh man, you got me good, lady."
Yeah, actually, that term retard is American slang. Retarded just means slow learner, but yeah, it's a terrible name for the special ed groups. It's just terrible.
Yeah,
But
I didn't say it. I didn't say that. That was the quote that was said.
With living in the van, I can remember Wayne Saban was a top 10 player in the world. He would knock on the van, park in different places, but for a while I was parking, right by a tennis facility in Boca, or even not parking there at night, but showing up there first thing in the morning. He'd, pound on the side of the van. He goes, "You're beating the rent. You're beating the rent." But yeah, so many names. Kevin King, what a strong character, great guy. He came to do some training with us. He played some doubles with my son in the juniors, and I remember, he showed up on TV playing many matches, and I remember telling the kids that we call a tennis house, big bunkhouse, and hey, that guy cleaned toilets. But no, his father Bill. I was at Kalamazoo one time with Bill,
big guy,
and we went out to dinner. The first part of the tournament. At the end of the tournament, which is like, a week later, go back to the same restaurant with him. He had been going there every night. That guy knew everybody's name, every waiter, waitress, the busboys.
Yeah.
I mean, just.
Nice guy.
But actually, your cousin Brad Thyroff, I was up in Toronto. My kids were playing hockey, and I was up there working, and he showed up with Kevin Arias, who. Talked to his brother. I don't know Jimmy, but I talked to him on a conference call a couple of times and say, "Hey, I used to wear your brother's blue jean jacket. He left it at our place. It was just the right size."
Yeah.
With the tournaments, talk us about stringy. I know you tell people that you're the only person in the history of tennis who never lost money at a tournament.
Yeah,
you always made money in a tournament.
Not even Federer could say that. However, I will take one of Federer's winning to everything I've ever made playing, and I'm not necessarily winning money. I'd make the money because I'd be in the green, as you say, like in the red and in the green as a profit, making a profit at the tournament because of one of the players said, "Yeah, we'll all go together with you, and we'll cut expenses." I said, "Right, you guys will cut expenses. Me, I will eliminate expenses." So I figured out a way to just eliminate every expense. So I string 10 rackets, I string 20 rackets, I make $200. I string 30 rackets, I make $300. So I got working, and I would string rackets at these tournaments. Now, mainly I played in the United States, pretty much all of them, and was able to drive there to all these. And my friend Nate Mann said, "Hey, you're like a sailor. You're using the wind, and you're fishing for your food and eating. Because I pretty much eliminated every cost. I would take a group. I would go on Craigslist rideshare and drive people from Charlotte, where I started, to Florida. I'd take like a lady and her dog or something. They'd pay all my gas or something like that. And then once I got to the tournament, it's usually a segment of 3 tournaments in a row. It'll go wherever it went to: Tampa, Orange Park, Jacksonville, or Orange Park, Vero Beach, whatever these segments would go. And I'd gather, "Hey, do you need a ride?" Or guys, "Yeah, you can go. $5 each, $7 each, or whatever." I had 8 people in there at one time. Everybody chipped in $5. Everybody chipped in $10, whatever it is. I probably even made money getting to the tournament. So there we go. We're all off to a good start. I've already made money, and I've got to the tournament. And then, what else? String 5 rackets, 10 rackets. Could that have hurt my performance standing on my feet stringing 10 rackets before my match? Yeah, possibly sometimes. But I had to take the money when it came to me out there, and yeah, I would string rackets. I would try to cook my food if I could find electricity to plug the bus in and cook my food and put it in the Tupperware, put it in the fridge. I had my shower we're at, these clubs, they always have showers. So you don't have to worry about, that. You already got your showers. And then I had free Chick-fil-A. I went to Chick-fil-A grand opening. I had 19 years worth of free Chick-fil-A. Now, one meal per week, so it's 19 times 52. That's how many Chick-fil-A meals I had.
How'd you get that? Sponsored by Chick-fil-A. How'd you get that deal?
Yeah, sponsored by Chick-fil-A. Yeah. So they used to have a thing called First 100. So if you weren't one of the first 100 guests at a grand opening of a Chick-fil-A, you win free Chick-fil-A for a year. So I would kind of look on the internet which ones were opening, and if it wasn't that far out of the way, I would go to it. And it first started in St. Simon's Island with Kevin Arias, and I was on St. Simon's Island, didn't have a place to park my bus, and someone told me about it. If you go to Chick-fil-A, I'm like, they're going to let me park my bus there, and they're going to give me free food for a year? I'm in, so that's kind of how it started. And I went to another one and another one. And, they really came in handy.
But John,
eliminating my food costs now. So,
but John, with, that Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Passive Income, that famous book, tell the listeners, how'd you get real estate holdings in Charlotte? Because when you were living out of your van, didn't you have 3 townhouses in Charlotte?
Yes. Yeah, that's true. So I'm living out of my van, not paying rent, and I have 9 people paying me rent every month. So 20 years old, I bought my first property in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was going to UNC Charlotte, and the current landlord said, "Hey, do you guys want to renew your lease and everything?" I'm like, "Well, I'm actually thinking about buying one of these places." And he said, "Hey, you want to buy this one?" And it had a assumable mortgage, which doesn't exist anymore, where you just basically just take over the existing mortgage. You pay set up something, and I just took over his mortgage, and there you go. I had my other friends paying me rent every month. I remember our first time there, we had 5 people in a 3-bedroom. My rent was $150 a month. My other college friend, he was paying $150. Another guy $175. We had a girl in there was paying $200 for her own room. So, one was paying $150 a month, and then I, bought it, and just was 20 years old. I was still at school, obviously, and then 24 was my first professional tournament when I was 24 years old. So I had finished school, ended up buying another one a couple of years later, same kind of thing. Got it's seller financing, where I put a down payment, and if I miss a payment, they take over the payment, and everything like that. And that's 20 years old, bought my first house, 23, bought my second house in 27, bought a third one with at the time, didn't need much to buy it. And then I just had the rent pay off the mortgages as I traveled in a school bus playing tennis.
And you still have the three townhouses?
15 years. I still have the 3 townhouses, and bought a couple other properties here, and one of my nine jobs I can go through later on.
We'll go through the 9 jobs but you're based in Tampa now. So does somebody help you manage the places in Charlotte, or you still do it yourself?
Just everything myself. I got two people I hired. I look down and I look at them. It's my left hand and my right hand. So that's pretty much the only help I got. But good desire to do this and drive and desire, which as probably on the tennis court, I had that as someone who put themselves in position and wanted to do this and play despite losing more than winning, which is a lot of the people here, and granted, the tournament that I played, and you're talking the U.S. Futures in January in Florida,
Yeah.
where we're going to do some math here. 128 players in the qualifying, 24 players in the main draw, and we're not even going to talk about the 25 players that didn't get. At the time, there was no IPIN; you just kind of showed up and signed in. We're not even going to talk about the other 25 people that didn't get in. So we're at 128 in the qualifying, 24 people in the main draw. 128 plus 24 is 152 people in this one tournament. And out of how many 152 players, how many players are not going to lose? One. So what does that make the field? 99, over 99.5% losers. Is my math right there?
Yeah. You're. I was going to ask you say qualifying, but then also there's the wild card, or sometimes people refer to it as pre-qualifying. So it's even more people, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're just going by them. So 99.5% are losers, and kind of have a story. You could have like a grandma who has two kids or two grandsons, and they're both like 22 years old. One of them is pursuing tennis. The other one is playing, college football or high school football. And the grandma asked one of them, "Hey, how'd you do?" And to the football player, "Oh, we won. Great." She asked her other grandson, the tennis player, "Hey, how'd you do at the tournament?" "Oh, well, I did okay. I lost, third round or whatever." And the next week, same thing. She asked him, "How'd you do?" "Hey, I won my football game. But I lost." So she knows nothing about sports, but she sees one grandson losing all the time, but that's tennis. You're gonna have 99.5% are gonna lose week in and week out.
Yeah, it's like Jimmy Connor is about a major. People say, "Jimmy, how you playing?" "Oh, I think I could beat God this week." That was one of his lines. Another line Connors would say, "Well, 127 losers and me."
Wow.
Yeah, so it's tough to win a title. It's amazing how difficult it is to win a title. I tell people even if it's a 14 and under national title, but when you start to, the futures level is not that high, but it's not that easy to win a title. If it was, I mean, let me say it this way: it's not that easy to get one ATP, one WTA point. Where'd you get your business? Where'd you get your business savvy?
Maybe from living in the bus, I eliminating all my. No, I don't know. I just kind of, I don't know.
Your father had a number of businesses, right?
Yeah. My father had a wholesale foods business at first, and short time with a liquor store, and then a Valenti Sports, a sporting goods store, in 1993. So I was one of the first employees there, and had that for a while. So, but back to the tennis. Getting through these come one come all futures tournaments in January in Florida, where there would be if you can win there, and you're a great player. I have a guy here. I'm going to tell a story about this guy, Jamie Steratani. Great doubles player.
I know Jamie.
40-50 in the world, but he's starting out, and he's actually qualifying for these 128 draws, 2005, and I kind of just looked this up, and because I remember it, but I looked it up for the facts. But he had 6 times he had qualified, and winning 4 tough matches. I mean, it's like Andrew Columbo said this: qualifying is like winning a men's open money tournament just to qualify, and then you still don't have an ATP point. So then he's played 6 times, winning 4 matches to qualify, playing 6 times, and losing every time for the point, and just could not get a point in the United States. It's super hard. And this is where I played pretty much all my tournaments. So the end of the year comes around, October, and I looked it up. He ends up going out of the country. He goes Zimbabwe, South Africa, Australia, in 2006, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico, and now he's starting to pick up points. He's starting to pick up points. Now his main draw, he goes China, 3 weeks, Canada, Greece, 3 weeks, Greece, 3 weeks, Norway, Finland, Ireland, England, Canada, Italy, Australia a couple times. And now it's the end of 2006. He's 600 in the world, 700 in the world. Comes back. It's the beginning of January. He's main draw, direct acceptance into the same tournament that he was qualifying for. He goes up first round and he plays Michael Lamer of Switzerland and loses 6-0, 6-0. And it's kind of like you can run, but you can't hide. Kind of right there. Nothing. I mean, Jamie, great guy, nice guy. I mean, come on, 45 in the world in doubles, top 100 in the world in doubles from 2007 to 2018, 19. So made a living. Yeah, and if I win all these places, would I be 600? No chance, no way. But I might get a point. I might somehow get an ATP ranking point. But yeah, a lot of fun. Jamie, I hope he doesn't get mad at me for that story.
No, he won't get mad at you. Jamie, Andy Fitzell brought him to our place, and I mean, I think he was 40, and he was, so flexible. I mean, so fit. I mean, I remember him speaking to a group of parents and players for us, and he a couple times, and he was a guy who played Wimbledon and had wins over Federer. But the term grind, you used to wear those T-shirts that would say grind. I mean, are you a lifer? Do you have the passion? That's where never give up. And once and it's tough. I know my son Conor played for 3 years. Once a kid starts talking about having an apartment, having a car, having a pet, having a life, having a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. It's hats off to everybody involved. I mean, especially, just from the get-go, junior tennis parents. I mean, it is really expensive. And I do think that if somebody...
We are fortunate to play tennis. I mean, as when you look back at it, there's sense of sport just to even start and play.
With... Jamie, he played at Brown. I mean, Ivy Leaguer too. I mean, he certainly could have stepped aside and probably taken for sure at a job that would have paid him well, but just never go away. Just stick to itiveness. Tell us about some of the people that you met.
My other Jamie Saratani story, real quick. Massachusetts accent, sunglasses. Cool looking guy, cool guy. And I ended up telling him, hey, I'm meeting up with this girl tonight or whatever. I was like, oh, cool. And so the next day he comes up to me and he goes, hey, how'd it go last night? Did you pass the goal? So I thought that was a funny way of saying it. And, Jamie, that'd kind of be something he would say to you. But yeah, the just getting a ranking, getting a point can depend on kind of where you go and what time of year it is and everything like that. And I was playing the toughest tournaments. I think these 128 draw qualifying, 128 draw qualifying, 5 matches just to get one ATP point. And it can be done. I mean, I've seen people do it, but in the U.S., it's tougher to get started and get going.
Well, it's amazing how many administrators. There's more administrators making money than there are players. So tennis is definitely mismanaged. The governing bodies of tennis, obviously the big 4, the countries that hold the Grand Slams, the majors, they have funny money. I loved it when the British, I understand they stopped doing it, but if someone won a futures, or for whatever amount they won, the LTA, the British Federation, would double the money. Yeah. So if you won 1,000, they'd give you 1,000.
Wow. Oh, that's great.
But yeah,
that's not.
It's interesting now in college tennis. What's it called? Name, image, likeness. That some kids are on schedule to make more money playing college tennis. And it's a safe bet than they'll ever play making pro tennis.
Well, yeah, you get a college scholarship is worth it right there.
Yeah. But now college scholarship, Nick Saban retired today, and I heard one person say, "Well, with the portal where kids can just, you upset the kid by looking at him cross-eyed. They go back to their dorm and they sign up for a transfer, and then it's public knowledge through the transfer portal. And then now in college tennis, the big time schools, some of them are already. It's not just scholarships; they're actually paying the players.
I know that happens in other sports. I didn't know it.
Yeah, it's not now. It's not going to be under the table. It's going to be, and there's always there's different sides of the argument. Years ago, if a college basketball coach he's wearing dress shoes to the game, but he's getting paid $400,000 a year to wear Nike or Adidas shoes in practice, and then there's a kid on the team who can't afford to go to his uncle's funeral. So there's a lot of imbalances. Yeah, let's go with some names. Who do you remember from playing? Who do you remember playing who was in the draws? You played in singles or doubles that, as they say, they made it. They made their way through the challengers and even into the ATP.
Yeah, that'd be a question I want to ask. Like, what do we consider a professional tennis player? What do you consider made it? What ranking? What level? What do you think?
Well,
I have my own.
I think there's many answers, but one answer is, are you making money? My son Conor, I mean, he was 200 ATP.
Yeah.
That didn't have any really. I had an injury or two, but he figured out how it works, and Federer's the first person to say the way they distribute money and the way they distribute points. Federer was always saying, "Hey, if you get to the quarterfinals, you've had a really good tournament." But what they do is they double the money and they double the points, basically. So someone wins at the quarters, they win the semis, they get to the finals. Then in doubles, it's so difficult to break into doubles. Say for example, if only 16,
a quarter of the money,
only 16 teams, you got 20%, and then you got to split that. But there's a lot of guys that are in their 40s that, because of why they're playing doubles so well. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. But at the same time, if they just have 2 good tournaments per year, they get to stay at the big time. The doubles.
I would say.
Go ahead.
Well, I would say I consider, a professional tennis player top 100. Other than that, you're great players, and but you got to be pretty much top 100 playing ATP events week in and week out. Then I consider so that's maybe 10 Americans, or whatever. As far as being a professional tennis player, yes, I played professional tennis tournaments, but I wouldn't consider myself a professional tennis player. And, or someone, you could probably ask someone 400 if they're a professional tennis player, and they'd probably say, "Nah, I mean, I played professional tournament." I mean, yeah, you want to look at the positive side, but I would say, to make it, you top 100.
That's interesting. The pension for the ATP. I mean, no one really got to. How's it go? Trust but verify. I'm going to shoot it out there where if it's 5 years, not 5 consecutive years, but if you're ranked in the top 50 in doubles.
Okay.
No, excuse me. Top 100 in singles, top 50 in doubles. 5 years, not 5 consecutive years. Then to get the pension. Last I knew, the pension was like $59,000 a year, and there's a lot of ins and outs to that. So, actually, your statement fits in a little bit with the ATP pension. But I also think if someone's top 100 in Germany, or even better yet, they're top 100 in Japan. I know at one point it was reported that Nishikori was making more money than Nadal. Look at Osaka and how much money that she made, $60 million supposedly in 1 year, by saying that she was raised in the U.S. but she's going to play for Japan, or, it's going to say, Japanese flag next to her name. But, yeah.
So I would consider a professional tennis player top 100, maybe top 30 in doubles. People would disagree with me. I mean, Conor top 200, probably 15th best American tennis player, 17th best American tennis player at the time.
14. That's his best ranking.
Incredible. That's incredible. I mean, if you were the 14th best American basketball player or American football player, you'd be making millions. But
yeah, no,
I was 81, 77 and 81 was my best national ranking. So 14 is way, way, way above me.
If you were playing minor league sports, you might be riding a bus and, putting 4 people in a not so nice hotel room, motel. But the big thing about playing junior tennis or pro tennis is you got to pay your own expenses. And I like how you said you weren't cutting expenses; you found a way to eliminate expenses.
So I would make a profit every year. So
yeah, like say Jeremy Wertzman, who was one in the NCAAs.
Yes,
he's mentioned to me many times. I tell people all the time, go to France. There's no tie-in with WTA or ATP points, but
club tennis or whatever.
Yeah, when it comes down to how much money, their formulas. I mean, there's a formula for going to the net. There's a formula for tournaments. If people are winning 65% at the net, they're doing great. If they're winning 65% of the matches, they're doing great. If people are winning 80, 90% of the matches, they're not. They need to lose more. Tennis players, Bill Tilden, tennis players are born out of defeat. But yeah, I think, people from other countries, you get lost in the shuffle if you're, you're the 14th ranked American in tennis. It's Conor, for example, his mother's from Ireland and his choice, but he could have played Davis Cup for Ireland. When he was 200, he would have been the highest ranked player in Ireland, and he would have been assured of playing in the lineup. And my vote was, I think you should go do it. But his was, I think he had the game to play doubles at a really elite level. But you just got to hang in there. You got to. Injuries are always a factor. He made a really good point to me one time where he said, "Well, if I play 10 more years and I start another career, at 40 versus 30. So there's a lot to be said about, And I was at a Challenger not too long. There's a lot to be said about hanging in there, but I was at a Challenger and, I just hats off to the guys playing the Challenger. I'm in Wintergreen, Virginia. So in Charlottesville, we went to the tournament and at least the guys are still playing tennis. I mean, a lot of those guys could be making more money playing pickleball right now.
Of course, or anything else. To make more, but and obviously I could have made more money than anything else, as well. But that wasn't my goal. My goal was to, play tennis and travel and enjoy that, but yeah. So we'll go through some guys.
These
aren't even guys that I played tournaments with, but. Go ahead. What are you
I was going to say, I ran into you so many different times. I remember one time at the place I worked at in Tampa, I was in Tampa 15 years and
HCC.
Yeah. One year it's like, okay, all right, Johnny baby, just park your bus right here. And then the next year they wanted to take over stringing. And I remember saying, I said, all right, Valenti, come with me. You can park right here. No one will know where you are. You just have to come in, walk the grounds and tell people, meet you. They had to, if you remember, they had to go left and over by where the Yankees played their spring baseball. That's where you set up shop the second time. That happened to you, I'm sure. They tried to not have you be part of the stringing business.
Yeah, I mean, they hire a stringer for the tournament, or in my defense, these are my friends. These are players I compete with, I practice with, and also they're going to have the same machine and the same technician or racket technician stringing the racket week in, week out, and that's pretty much what it's about, consistency. The racket's going to come out the same. I'm sure Conor dealt with it. He gets rackets strung, and they maybe don't feel the same as the last week, or
Right.
But for me, it was the same for my customers or my friends or whatever. It was the same machine, stringing, same stringer, stringing, same everything week after week. So Ryan Tarpley said, look, they say that you're taking their business away. You should say they're taking your business away, because these are your customers. But so I ran into that sometime, and that can't make everybody happy. That definitely happened.
Tennis world's a small place. Shout out to Ryan Tarpley. He came to us very similar to Ryan Fleming. He's 20, past 25 for sure, 26, 27.
Yeah.
And I said to him, how'd you like to be number one player in the 35s? Because he just, lefty, great body, tall, lean, fast, but he didn't have the best technique. And so he was busy in real estate at 35 working, but then he became number one ranked player in the U.S. in the 40s. But Ryan Tarpley.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Who else comes to, what other names?
So here you go. Yeah, I kind of searched and did a list of players that I've, unfortunately I say that I played, not I beat. But we will go with players I played. Austin Krajicek, played him in doubles, number one in the world. Reached number one in the world in doubles. Juan Cabal, number one in the world in doubles. Played him. Rohan Bopana, number three in the world in doubles. Played him. Marcus Freistenberg, Polish guy, number six in the world in doubles. Played him. Raven Clausen, number seven in the world in doubles. Marcelio Alvarello, number five in the world in doubles. Michael Venus, number six in the world in doubles. Unfortunately, yes, I played, not beat, but I've played all these top. Those are some doubles guys, top 10. Singles guys, we got Kevin Anderson, number five in the world. Played him, and I also played him in doubles. His partner was Ryler the Hart, Kevin Anderson. Played them, but he ended up, at the time of the match, he was 85 in the world, but he was 5 in the world. He had already beaten Djokovic, so that was, definitely the highest ranked player I ever played. I played Sam Querrey, number 11 in the world. And then a lot of these guys, let's see, John Millman, 33 in the world. Amir Delic, 60 in the world. Tim Smichek, 68 in the world. Jimmy Wang, 85 in the world. Marcus Giron, 49 in the world. Alejandra Cibolo, 64 in the world. Neomar Kekmanovic, 27 in the world. Pedro Sosa, 99 in the world. Gregor Zemlja, 43 in the world. Yuchi Sigata, 36 in the world. Radu Elbot, 39 in the world. A lot of people. Dennis Kudla, 52 in the world. Sumdev Devarin, 62 in the world. And singles. See, I've got some doubles guys here. Trent Huey, 18. Nick Monroe, 30 in the world. Keep going. Trip Phillips, 29 in the world. Julio Peralta, 29 in the world. Marcus Andruska, 27 in the world in singles. Graydon Oliver, 29 in the world. And there's more. I just those are just some of these guys. Played doubles with Wayne Odesnik, 77 in the world. Traveled with Lucas Rosal, 26 in the world. And we can look at the last Grand Slam, the 2023 U.S. Open, and I want to say this before I age out and the players I played against age out. So we have the doubles final, Rohan Bopana against Matt Ebden, which Bohana, I mentioned I played. Matt Ebden, I practiced with. He's into my house, kind of friends with him. And against Ram and Salisbury. Joe Salisbury I'd never played, but Rajiv Ram I played tournaments with. And then we go to the mixed doubles final. We have Krajicek and Pegula. And as I mentioned, I played Krajicek. And against the other team was Harry Helavora against I don't know who, but I played a tournament with him. I actually advanced farther than him in a doubles tournament, so I like it. So that's the 2023 U.S. Open, and I also did play 3 ATP events, so that was kind of really big for me. I played Houston ATP on the red clay. I played Newport on the grass, and I played Atlanta on hard court. So, just with a doubles ATP ranking I had, I was able to sneak into those tournaments, which basically was the reason I'm playing tennis, was to play ATP events. The reason anybody is playing tennis is to play ATP events. I ended up seeing the Moroccan player, the guy who played Roddick in that long match.
Yeah.
The Australian
he drove the bus at volunteers.
Yeah, what's his name? Gosh, how can I forget his name right now?
When I hang up, I'll have his name. Yeah, big guy.
But nice guy. But I saw him at a futures tournament, and I said, "Hey, look at this! 150 players, and everybody here is trying to be like you." So, yeah.
No, I mean,
I was glad I ended up playing those ATP events
with some of the
Eunice Selinawi.
There you go. Yeah. Good memory.
That was it. Yeah.
With a great story too. I mean, he couldn't afford to be at voluntary. He was there on some type of work study, and he was driving the bus. Makes you wonder. I have a brother who wrote many hockey books. Is life after tennis. Just a couple of things. I jotted some names down. You went so fast. Not a problem. But Graydon Oliver, along with Dave Anderson. We spent a lot of time. Dave Anderson used to call him Hollywood. He ended up playing on every major center court. Say Australia, French, cool. Wimbledon, U.S. And and for our listeners, he wasn't setting the world on fire in juniors. He was good, but he the short period of time that he worked with us, and then he went to Illinois, where one of our students, Craig Tiley, was there. But that comes to my mind. Smichek, I remember just watching him play so many times. I remember I was on the road with Rostin Krajicek, and I go, there was a line for Barry McKay: "You need to serve and take the baseline with you. You just need to go forward. What are you doing playing back against that guy?" And I know later Austin had a win over Smichek, but Smichek was great. He played that brilliant match with Nadal. I mean, you're talking about really good tennis players. Didn't he go 5 sets with Nadal?
Went 5 sets with Nadal, and probably one of my favorite players because he is my size. There's not many guys 5'8", 150 pounds. And that was one thing that definitely hurt me was kind of my size. Every time I stepped on the court, and I never thought of this during, and it's a good thing I didn't when I played matches, but I never thought about this. But every time I stepped on the court, my opponent was bigger than me. I never would think that or anything like that until after. And I'm playing. Actually, it was when I was playing Alejandro Tebolo or whatever his name was. He was like 15, and we had 14-year-old Francis Tiafoe watching him beat me, and I'm 35 years old, and this 15-year-old kid is twice as big as me. And I look around and I see people watching the match. They're all bigger than me. The ball kid's bigger than me. The line judges are bigger than me. Everybody's bigger than me, and I'm just like, okay, well, hey, that's just what it is. But,
here's Kevin Anderson beating Djokovic, but Kevin being from South Africa.
He had beaten Djokovic before I played him. I was. So there we go.
But he's a guy who played for Tiley at Illinois, but. Just little things that people need. The parents put a backboard in the backyard. So Kevin, Roger Federer's mother, Lynette, from South Africa. One thing before, it was in Miami where he beat Djokovic, but the day before early prepping for the tournament, he had taken a set from Federer, so that had to give him some confidence for that win.
Yes, I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
him saying that story. And hey, come on. Now, Kevin Anderson beat Roger Federer at Wimbledon. How many people can say that?
How about, like DeVarman, I watched DeVarman in juniors, I watched him in college, and I watched him in futures, watched him in challengers. He was so fast. I believe
Yes,
our fact checker, he beat John Isner in the NCAAs.
yes,
But so many things.
true.
If he needed to go forward more. He needed to have more offense. But what a great player. Um,
Yeah, number 62 in the world. I remember him playing, and you talk about how tough the tournaments were in Florida in the 128 draw. I remember him going through quali as a University of Virginia student, and just there missing school, winning 9 matches, playing Nick Monroe. He actually played Nick Monroe, and he beat him pretty bad, like 1-1 and Nick Monroe's 200 in the world, and the first seed in quali. But that's how tough these tournaments, in Florida. And I remember seeing you there, and in my story, and I told you that before when we talked earlier. Your sweatpants tucked into the socks, and
definitely 70s.
Listeners remember that one.
Definitely 70s. That was the thing to do years ago, to tuck your socks in. You couldn't do that if you were in those footsies. You have to have the high socks to do that. Nick Monroe, like Jamie Serratini, he hung in there for a long time. I remember when he was a young kid.
Yes, definitely.
They were just practicing. He was in the 12s, and the dad brought him by where we were. But it's just amazing. He's a guy I think who's played past the age of 40, right?
Yes, and got up to 30. And another guy, a lot of respect for him. Small, same size as me. I mean, not much. I would go later on into my gym, and I'd have a trainer say, "Hey, what do you want to work on? What do you want to improve on? What?" And I'd say to him, "Hey, how can I get my bones bigger? But obviously not possible. But hey, and I had other gifts. I had other talents. I was very fast and very, very good determination, and figuring it. And maybe my talent wasn't at the tournament; it was getting to the tournament. But
it would have been great turning the clock back. Same with Columbo. I mean, obviously Columbo has that NCAA doubles title, but it's just based on the information. I just think if you went back, like say Pete Fisher, Pete Sampras' coach, who you've spent time with and watched Wordsman play. Yeah, you just need to be more efficient. Back when you were 16, it would have been better ideally. The sooner the better, like you were saying at the beginning of the podcast. If 6-year-olds can work with the most experienced coaches,
technique is so important.
What's that?
Technique is so important. Technique is so important. When you're starting out. As when I'm coaching, I started coaching, kids and coaching my son or whatever. Technique is so important. If you think of a tree growing just straight up, or the tree growing to the side, and then you have to kind of get it back to growing straight. Starting with that base, the great base or whatever, as you're, as you talk about. But having that technique to start with. That's why when I teaching my son, I was making sure he has, great technique and everything, because maybe they're going to have some serious desire to play, and if they don't have the right technique, they're only going to get so far.
So for our listeners, if the young kids in the U.S. of A. all over the world, but if they could play multiple sports, become an athlete, but every day work on having the framework for strokes. I know you did a lot of work as a sparring partner, a young gal that you're working with, Lexington Reed. She's going to go to Texas A&M, and I don't know where she is with her tennis now, but she's got to be very good if she's going to Texas A&M. I
kind of started with her. Kind of one of the things, after I stopped playing tournaments, I started coaching, and the first girl I started coaching, hitting with was a girl named Lauren Proctor. Um, she's currently she's like 600 in singles, 500 in doubles. I think she's currently around 800. She's still playing, but she was 16, 17, and 18 years old. Is pretty much what I did hitting with her at first, working her out, and then I started working with Lexington Reed. She was 8 years old, and 8 years old to 12 years old. You know, I worked with her off and on a lot, and maybe top 5 in the country as a junior, and I worked it out hard. I remember getting on the court and seeing the sun come up. We got there right. It was one of the shorter days in Florida, but we seen the sun come up. Train her for 2 hours, and then go get some lunch. Come back, train her for another 2 hours, and I remember the sun setting on the same court, kind of. And so she put in a lot of time. 9 years old.
I just vaguely remember. I think the dad was training helicopter pilots in Syracuse. Are they from upstate New York originally?
I think the dad is living there, but I think she's originally Las Vegas, Florida, pretty much Florida. You know, starting with, I think she started with Rick Macy as a coach at first. So, you know, obviously getting that technique and everything, and she was already playing very well at 9 years old.
Well, great competitor, great fighter with us. I mean, I think she lasted 48 hours. The mom happens quite often. Yeah, I'd say for the most part, people are referred to us. You know, they're all in. They've just been told, and they're all in before they even show up. And but the crystal ball. I mean, she's going to Texas A&M, and if she were to talk to Steve Denton, who's he's been the head coach there for a long time. When she did come to work with us, everybody, once you start to film, check your ego at the door. There's going to be things to work on.
Right.
The last up here at the resort in Wintergreen, Virginia, the women's team from Virginia, they had team bonding. They were here for 2 days, so we watched them play pickleball one day. We watched them play tennis the next day, and there's a reason that top players. They just, they've been approached by so many people. They're very skeptical. I mean, there's a reason why they're not trustworthy, because the better they become, the more people approach them, and everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got something to say. But I think when someone can roll some film, and you talk about prevention of injury and this and that, but so sparring partner, you still doing that? That's one of the 9 jobs?
Yeah, the 9 jobs here. Yes.
What are the 9? What are the 9 jobs?
Man, I kind of stopped some of them, but so we got I managed my 3 rental properties in Charlotte. So that's one job. So I'm rent by the room. So that's 9 tenants I look after. And my good friend Clint Bowling, this is his main job. He manages 120 properties. So me doing 9 properties, but still that's another. I have one Clint's a friend of mine. I have a story we were talking about the other day, playing these futures in Florida, 128 quality draw. He ends up not getting in the tournament, but he ends up getting in as an alternate. So, if you don't get in right away, you can sign up as an alternate, get in as an alternate. So he ends up getting in as an alternate, and he's playing a guy, Vladimir Obradovic, a very good player. Likes to talk and argue a little bit, and maybe not the most liked guy out there is Obradovic, but and Clint can play, whether he's an alternate or not. Clint can play tennis. Clint Bowling, and they're having an argument. Clint's maybe 19 years old, and line call. Obradovic is walking to his chair. Clint's like, "What are you talking? That ball was in." Obradovic just keeps walking to his chair. What do you think? The ball was in? Clint goes, "That ball was in, this and that." And then Obradovic says, "Hey, don't talk. I don't talk to alternates." just be quiet. I don't talk to alternates. And then he just sits down. So my Vladimir Obradovich quote there, I don't talk to alternates. So, but okay, yeah. Manage the 9 properties. 9 tennis is one of the jobs. Manage my Airbnb. So this is Patricio Alvarado is a good friend of mine. He kind of got me started in this Airbnb thing. He's a great player as well.
And that's in Tampa.
Yes, my Airbnb is in Tampa. And Patricio will also like that story about tennis players getting paid, but that's another story. But it managed my Airbnb here in Tampa, and I also am the cleaner of that Airbnb here, and it is very successful. I'm a hustler. Last year, 2023, 365 days in a year. I booked it 363 days, so that is only 2 days it was vacant for the whole year. So proud of that, very proud of that.
And you do that via your telephone, right? You'll even lower the price when you get down where it's not booked?
Yes. Thank you. Yes. I'll just keep lowering the price until I find somebody. The lowest I went. And also I have 1 night minimum. So some Airbnbs, you have to stay at least 3 nights. I have a 1 night minimum. So I'm taking it all.
But you have a property that you're renovating too, right?
Yeah. So that's 3 jobs. Then I have 5 eBay stores. I'm extreme couponing. With a job, I have a YouTube channel. I'm renovating a house. I string rackets and I teach tennis. Those are my 9 jobs.
What do you sell on eBay?
And, everything I got from extreme couponing, which was everything. So I stopped these 2 jobs. So we got to get it down to about 6 jobs now, because I no longer extreme coupon. But and that was my YouTube channel was what deals go on at Publix. I was getting $300 worth of stuff, and they were paying me. And if you look at my past videos of my couponing videos, every week Publix paid me when I left the store, and I'd have anywhere from $100 to $300 worth of groceries and stuff. And
say that again. You'd get $300 worth of groceries.
Yeah, $300 worth of groceries, and I used so many coupons, I'd have a negative balance, and they'd end up having to pay me money.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
They usually with a gift card, and as I said, my living in the school bus, eliminating all costs, definitely helped in that extreme frugalness.
I remember
ability there. So
I remember being in Boca. I was a perennial tennis bum in Boca. Started playing such a late age. I mean, 19 to get into tennis, almost 20. So I had my 10-speed bicycle out front, and I'm in a drugstore, and I'm waiting. A little old lady in front of me. Now that I'm a little old man, and she has all these coupons, and I'm waiting. She at the grocery cart, and I just had 1 item, so I was right behind her. And as I walk out to get on my 10-speed bike, she's got a limo driver opening the door for her right out front.
Mine. I usually ask the people behind me. I say, "Hey, look, I got a lot of coupons. You might want to go to another line," or I give them a heads up. I stopped it. I stopped doing this about 6 months ago, and I was just getting so much stuff that I really didn't need. Hence the 5 eBay stores that I was just selling it, and I'm finally to the point where I went through all the food, and I've sold almost everything that I got on eBay, and it was a lot of it was how I shipped it was how I made my profit, because I had free shipping. But it's another story.
Wow, how about stringing? Do you string anymore?
String a little bit, not really much, and teaching tennis. Got a few clients here and there. I'm happy. I have a client I've been working with, a guy, Tommy. He's 62 years old, and he wants to try to get a gold ball national title at 65. So I'm working with him pretty much every morning is how I start my day, training him at least an hour a day.
So are you still super fit?
So I am. I'd like to say yes. I am super super fit. I'm kind of like a like a talk about shipping stuff. You need to put these stickers on me that say fragile, handle with care, because a lot of stretching, a lot of 47 years old, a lot of making sure I'm warmed up, but I definitely I think I can still move pretty good. Definitely around 44 years old. I noticed 43 years old, I ran a 4:48 mile.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but now it's kind of dropped. At 44 is pretty much my last good year. That was the year I admitted and said to myself, tough pill to swallow. But I'm not and then now it's just kind of a little downhill from here. But
4:48 mile. Bruce Dern, you can't. The actor Bruce Dern, a great famous quote: "You can't BS a stopwatch." There's so many kids that we work with, and we tell them, when you get to college, when you show up on campus, you should be able to break a 5-minute mile. And I think, we're getting softer and softer in junior tennis. I did all sorts of distance running. I was so slow.
Mine was on a treadmill, just to put it there. Mine was on a treadmill, so kind of outside I was like 5 in the 502 to 506,
still
something like that.
I used to do so much distance training that I remember I wouldn't break 60 and a quarter. Of course, we weren't running on very good tracks, but I remember breaking 5-minute mile with. No, let me ask you about any danger. What about any with the van?
Just the one quote by the housekeepers, which I'm a housekeeper now, but that was it. And then maybe someone tried to break, kind of I was sleeping, and I heard like the door kind of like move, like someone was trying to break in. But other than that, pretty safe places I would park it.
Yeah. No, you have to be very careful where you park. I one time was parking at a tournament in Miami, and the guy was trying to steal a tire off the back of the truck, and my window was rotted out, so I could just push the window. And I just said, "Hey, buddy, I got a gun." And he started running. And I just said afterwards, because I had just woken up from him trying to steal the tire. And I go, that was that was a dumb thing to do. And then I just said, okay, I got to find some place safe to park. Hotels are safe to park. I mean, I lived at the Boca Hotel in my van. I mean, I lived at, that's a beautiful 5-star hotel. And I worked for Braden. I lived in a van. I lived at some really nice places. Only resident of Costa de Casa, Trabuco Canyon, who living in a van. But I played tennis, as I mentioned, with this English guy, and it was in Boca Raton. And in Delray Beach, there was an armed robbery in a yellow Ford van. So we had played tennis all day, and it was a place called Casa del Rio. It had a swimming pool. You just, park like you own the place, and showers and a couple tennis courts. And, the hard courts at a lot of places back in the day were just left open. It was the clay courts that would be locked. So 3 cop cars, and they're just blaring their lights at the van. And I'm not talking gun, like a pistol. I'm talking rifles. So these guys are 3 of them, and they go, "Come out with your hands up." So I turn to the English guy and go, yeah. As I turn to the English guy, we're just eating cantaloupe. I mean, it's like 9:00 at night. I go, "What did you do today?" And he goes, "Well, let me go talk to him." And I said, "No, I got this." So I walked towards these bright lights. And, you could tell it was cop cars. I had my arms up over my head. I just kept yelling, "This doesn't happen in America. This doesn't happen in America." So anyway, they came and checked out the van, and we had the ball hoppers and piles of rackets. And, we were illegally parked at Casa del Rio, but, they just told us, "Hey, I gave them the line where, the next semester we were going to check into the dorms at FAU." And, they were on to, they had more concern than, 2 tennis bums just beating the rent. But so many van stories. I think it's definitely a character builder. I just think that I remember one time being in a tournament with my son, and he had gone deep in the tournament. He'd gone through the qualies, and it was in the Orange Bowl. And it's like, okay, I didn't know that he was going to get this far. And I remember ended up staying at the Biltmore, and being a van man, I was like, "It's no problem. I've got a minivan." I said, "We just crash in the van." But people look at you cross-eyed when you say you could just sleep in a van.
Yeah, sleeping in your vehicle and stuff. But it gave me the opportunity to play, week in and week out, and that eliminated the cost. And I kind of, this is kind of another thing, but I kind of saw what it took to be a world class player, and I think these four traits of mental, physical, desire, and talent. These four traits being 10 out of 10 is what can make a world class player. And I think you can control some of them, and some of them you can't control.
I got 4 of them. You got mental, physical, talent. What was the other one?
Desire.
Desire. Yeah, it's tough to measure
desire and want to play. So your mental is, how you deal with pressure, how you play big points, also how you learn, and how you figure out your opponent. Physical, we know what physical is. And I think physical is the one that you can control the most. You can make yourself not get tired. You can make yourself faster. However, you can't make yourself taller, or you can't make yourself, wider or whatever, but you can control physical. And then the mental, I feel you can control a lot of that, maybe control it pretty good. And the desire part, I think you either kind of have it or you don't. You can maybe control it a little bit. And then talent, I think, is the one that you can't control. Kind of, you either have it or you don't. That kind of part. But,
tell us about your siblings. How many kids in your family? Grown up brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I got three younger brothers. I'm the oldest of 4 boys. Got my brother Joe, Paul, and Philip, and all get along. All play sports. My brother, well, they all play pickleball now, but my brother played soccer. My brother Joe played soccer, and he played pretty much all the sports. Paul played soccer. Division II, their team was ranked number 1 in the nation, Mercyhurst College. And then Philip, my youngest brother, played basketball, and he even played, semi-pro basketball in Spain. All big pickleball players now, and they're kind of the pioneers. They were playing pickleball tournaments in 2011. They were playing these national tournaments there. And my brother has a barn, and inside the barn, in upstate New York, he has a pickleball court. It's a pickle barn, and then he has also 2 professionally made outdoor pickleball courts. And
wow!
They are big. They're big into pickleball. My brother is teaching 2. He's a school teacher, health teacher, and on his lunch break, he'll go home and teach 2 pickleball lessons every day. Every day he'll go home on his lunch break and teach 2 back-to-back pickleball lessons, and then go back to work. So he's in high demand. He's a pickleball guru, legend in upstate New York. My other 2 brothers love it. Play. I think my brother Joe was pretty much the first one playing in maybe 2010. He's been playing almost 15 years probably pickleball, and this pickleball has, as we all know, has kind of boomed and taken over some of the tennis courts, as we know. And I think for pickleball's a great sport. So easy to learn. I mean, we talk about trying to hit a 2-handed backhand. I mean, you're taking the racket back, you're sliding your hand down, you're changing the grip, and you're swinging, and this is all running full speed to the corner. That's just to hit a backhand. You just, for pickleball, you say, hey, shake hands with the paddle. Here's your forehand. Here's your backhand. Here's your serve. So easy. The court is smaller. So easy to learn. To master and play. You can ask a lot of the heart. It's a lot tougher. And your thoughts on pickleball, Steve?
Well, this past week, as I mentioned, we watched the women from the University of Virginia play. It was fun. They're, right away, and some of them had never played before. Steve Campbell's wife, Colleen, played all sorts of tennis growing up, high level, and she plays.
Mm-hmm.
So when you watch athletes, former tennis players play, it's I think there's lots of positives. I think we in tennis have to wake up and smell the coffee, and I think certainly like Sam Queer, you mentioned his name. You played tennis against him when you were coming up, and he says it's 90% tennis. Yeah, there's 10% that you have to other things that you have to learn. I really think that the people that like the USPTA and the PTR overnight, they became pickleball organizations, and we need to carry the flag of tennis because prevention of injury. If you can play high level pickleball based on your tennis skills. Next week, we're scheduled to interview Rachel Rohrbacher, who we worked with maybe 8 years, and she played at South Carolina, and she's doing really, really well with pickleball, has an agent and is part of the world championship team. And but I think it's the same thing. I like you said from the get-go, technique with when right now I look at pickleball like tennis in the 70s. So pickleball came along the same year as racquetball, 1968, but it's just boomed here.
Tennis came back. Tennis came along at the same time as racquetball. Is that what you said?
No, tennis is 1873. Pickleball, racquetball,
Gotcha.
1968. And with as far as rules and regulations and it's so-called official sport. But I don't think pickleball is going to go the direction that racquetball went. Racquetball is almost not it's not on the map, extinct. And so I do think that if you can't beat them, join them, and it should be okay. Organize your ready position, and it is definitely different with the kitchen. You see all these swing volleys. Rohrbacher told me. She said, "Thank you for teaching me Eastern grips because the tennis players that have extreme grips that are trying to play pickleball, watching these girls from Virginia, some of them had extreme grips on the forehand side, and it just seemed that when they first played pickleball, and again, I was just watching them for one afternoon, but they started slicing their forehand, and I mean, sometimes it looks like a great drill for half volleys. So I do think there's positives.
Yeah, well, some touch for sure.
Yeah.
And it's great to see people enjoying it and better than doing nothing. And it's really easy to start and get someone going, and just there you go, just hold the racket like you're paddle like you're shaking hands and tap. I mean, there's no serve to where think about all the mechanics of a serve and a two-handed backhand or a one-handed backhand, the grip changes. There's no grip change. That's pretty much what makes it easy to learn.
Yeah. So. But I do think that if young players or new players could be adults if they were just taught basic mechanics, use the larger body parts, and learn to play both sports. I know there's a move where it's interesting how that will take place. So if tennis players go to a pickleball facility now and they show up with tennis rackets and they're going to play what people are calling light tennis, and they're going to play with a foam ball because tennis, pickleball has invaded tennis. I think we need to counter that and have tennis invade pickleball. The terms, the sport spec tennis from paddle tennis, where you puncture the tennis ball, it was played at 3 different places. They're still out in Venice Beach, California. You puncture the tennis ball, you play with a wooden mallet. Bobby Riggs started that way. Pancho Gonzalez started that way. Althea Gibson started that way. And what they say in spec tennis, I don't know why they called it spec tennis, but spec tennis is very close to paddle tennis. Obviously it's not a wooden racket, but the people with spec tennis, we did a video for them. They sent us some rackets, and because Dave Fish was talking to them about how pickleball is not a bridge sport, but spec tennis is. Because of the racket, the spec tennis racket, you have to play more from your shoulder, and you have to, it's if you play with a spec racket, just like years ago, if you like Althea Gibson when she played paddle tennis, it transferred to tennis. I like Jim Klein was on our podcast, and he mentioned that if you're learning to play pickleball, you can't play tennis, but if you're learning to play tennis, you can play pickleball. So I think
I
really
like that. Yeah.
people should be introduced to both sports. Let's do this. All those years on the van and on the road. I mean, tournament tennis. What advice do you have? We have parents who listen to the podcast, juniors,
Yeah.
coaches. What general advice would you have?
So, first of all, you know, play and compete to get out there. I have a quote that I really like, and it wasn't said like this, but it's from Aristotle. It's the Olympic Games are not won by the fastest and strongest. The Olympic Games are won by the fastest and strongest who enter the game. So at least put yourself in the tournament, put yourself out there, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I could win this tournament, this and that," but they don't actually put themselves out there. So that is not the exact quote. The exact quote is a little different. And I looked it up the other day, which but that's one. But another advice here that I have for players: do not look up your opponent before you play them. You kind of just psych yourself out. I have a story of this guy, Antoine Richard. It's about 2011. He's playing a guy, Filip Krivanovic. And I go over to him, hey, good luck today. How you doing? He's like, I got a tough match. I played Krivanovic. I looked him up last night. He beat Djokovic. I watched the match on YouTube. And I said, hey, you know what? When the tournament referee calls your name and they call his name and they hand you the ball, I want you to shake his hand and just tell him nice match, because you're already beat, man. I mean, so that'd be my advice. Don't look up your opponent before this person beats so and so, and this. It all depends on the day. It's the day, and what are you going to do by looking up your opponent? It's just going to psych you out. Either they're really good or they haven't won a match. This is going to be easy. Or they're going to beat me. They're really good. They're going to beat me. Well, what do you take on that? What's your take on that? I mean, it's so much different now. I mean, it's so easy, and it's so tempting to look up your opponent. But me, what I would do is I would just say to my friend, just tell me what time I play. I don't care who I'm playing. Just tell me what time I show up, and I'm going to prepare like I'm playing the best player or the worst player. I'm just going to prepare and play my best and do my best and, warm myself up and get out there and, yeah. So what is that's some advice.
No,
don't look up your
that's
opponent.
great advice. I mean, a chapter of my life, you don't have a life. I mean, for 2 years, pretty much 2 years, every weekend I was at the Battle of Boca. And it's a great service. I mean, you could be critical and say the entry fee is too high. No one's playing doubles because it's pretty much the same entry fee for doubles as singles. Now there's no ad, and they're playing 10-point tiebreakers. In the consolation, they played a 4 and 7-point tiebreakers. But one other beef, and again, I think it's a great thing, but they post the UTR on the draw. So kids are looking up the UTR. Another thing I have that's right along the lines. So the kid's going to see what the UTR is. And another thing, another is
I would cover that up. I would cover the UTR.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Jeremy Wertzman at that time, was girlfriend, now wife. I mean, he wouldn't even look at the draw. He would he'd play his match, and then she would tell him who he's playing next. How's it go? Tennis experts will tell you 7 out of 10 matches are predetermined. They're over before they start. With the Battle of Boca, it's amazing how the parents, they're just constantly looking the UTR up. And I mean, I don't really think a kid should have a UTR until they're going into their junior year in high school. It does help college coaches from a recruiting standpoint. But I just think, when kids are in they're 10, 11 years old, and they're looking at the UTR.
I mean, if they could just go into that match with, who am I playing? It doesn't matter, just go into that match, go out if you were playing in another country or something and you knew nothing about your opponent or this and that. You're gonna play. You're gonna play your best. You're not gonna have this side thing where they're a 11 UTR and I'm a 9 and it's gonna be tough. They're gonna be so good and this and that. No, like you go into the match. I'm John and I'm playing Harold or whoever, whatever it is. But you just go in the match and we got, 3 balls. He's got a racket, I got a racket, and we both know how to keep score and let's go.
One time I was playing a tennis tournament at Bath and Tennis in Sarasota. My doubles partner had lost in the men's open final. I lost in the final at 25s. We won the doubles, and my English friend goes, "Hey, we're playing awesome." And I go, no. Let me show you what's going on here. And it was Rill Baxter and Jimmy Arias. They were playing on it. They were practicing. I go, these guys aren't even in the tournament. I mean, they're both like 17 years old. I go, these guys are too good to even play in the tournament. There's so many different levels of play. But at that facility, Wagstaff, the gentleman who ran it, owned the club. He used to run tournaments, and he would hand the balls out, and he goes, 2 guys would go, and he goes, "Hey, remember, you're not playing each other. You're playing Wilson 3, or you're playing Dunlop 2."
Yeah.
And go out, play the court, go out, play the court, play the ball.
Playing myself or whatever.
You should gather your thoughts, and even if it was just simple tips. Mike Costa, I don't know if you played against him. He probably was at tournaments that you were at for sure. You mentioned a lot of Illinois guys, so I had a lot to do with Illinois tennis, and Costa, obviously a professional comedian, talented guy.
Yes,
waiting for him to be in the movies. Tall, good-looking guy, and I'd give him a hard time. I said, "You recognition freak." So he writes a book. He started a book when he was with us, and I think it's a Mike Costa 100-win tennis tips. I mean, it's a good read. I mean, it's the kind of book a kid could put in their shoulder bag. But go ahead, give us a Costa story.
Yeah, Costa. So we're playing in Peoria, Illinois, and we're playing a pro-am, and we play the pro-am, and now it's time to get paid our check, and the tournament director says, "All right, everybody, write down your name and everything like that." And I'm writing my name, and he's looking over at me. He goes, "John Valenti, very legible," kind of, because I'm getting paid. So that was, not the best story, but I kind of thought it was funny already, starting with the joke that, I'm writing my name real neat because I'm getting money. I'm getting money.
Yeah.
But,
well, it's good that
another one is,
go ahead.
Well, I say Mike Costa, but this is another quote. I played 13 years straight, pretty much every tournament, and every once in a while I'd run into someone who just started playing or whatever, and they come in with their stories. "Oh, I used to play. I was, I had a few ATP points and this and that, and yeah, I got hurt." And I'm like, dude, I look at them and I'm like, no, you never played. And my quote to them is, "Hey, when did you change your name?" So, because, there's a thing called the internet. You can, I just said not to, but you can look up and see, but some people will basically make up, the result.
Yeah, no, the internet.
When did you change your name?
Yeah, that's a great line. The internet's like 35 years old. And one thought with the internet from a tennis teaching standpoint, Vic Braden, so much bad information goes out so fast. But yeah, in a heartbeat, just pushing your fingers a few buttons, you could find out how much money someone won. And it's tough to make money in tennis. It's very, very tough to make money in tennis. But like say Costa, he gave it a go. He played, played futures, and it's like Agassi wrote in his book that he hated tennis, and they asked his wife, Steffi Graf, "Are you shocked that Andre said that he hates tennis?" And she looked at the person and said, "Doesn't everybody?" I mean, there is that, there is that the love-hate when it comes to winning and losing, but it's, like with Costa, I don't think there was too many laughs when he was trying to make it on the future circuit. I mean, it's, certainly he's always been known for a great sense of humor, but when you're struggling like that, and it's like, gee, can you get from that level to the next with,
Yeah.
I think you did it the right way to persevere though, to, find a way to
No, I was
cut the
different.
expenses.
Eliminate,
Eliminate. There
eliminate
you go.
expenses.
Eliminate.
Yes.
I stand corrected.
Yeah. I would show up to a tournament with with I had money in the bank, but I had like zero cash on me. Maybe $20. The entry fee was 30 or 40, and I'd probably ask somebody, "Hey, can I borrow $10? Can I borrow $10? Pay for my entry fee." By that night, I had strung, 8 rackets. I had $80 and paid the person back, and from that point on, I'd made money every day and spent very little. And by the end of the 3 week tournament segment, I had $600, $700, and
Sounds
that
like
could,
you, when you were growing up, I know you're much
pretty
younger.
much last me.
I, I'm much older than you are, but growing up, sounds like you must have worked part-time jobs. I mean, here in the U.S., tennis kids are not working part-time jobs, and as a
Yeah, I had
result,
a paper route at 12 years old.
there you
I
go.
started making money at 12 or 13 years old, and my
Yeah,
dad made me work at the sporting goods store, and actually his liquor store when I was 14 years old, 13, 14 years old. So, yeah, I was stringing rackets 12, 13 years old, making my own money from the beginning, and yeah, nothing was handed to me. Although my parents would definitely help me if I ever asked, but I don't know, have the pride of not kind of wanting to do it myself, as me renovating this house right now, doing it all myself. I have not hired anybody. I've cut down 18 trees on the property. I've saved $30,000 in yard work, more than that probably, and so that's kind of my job right now. I'm almost done with the yard here.
I
But
do
I got
think that
great deal on the house.
if someone goes to YouTube, sounds like you're doing that quite a bit. If you go to YouTube and you're gonna put in a patio, there are nuts and bolts, but when you go to YouTube, or you go to these tennis YouTube gurus, there's not too many that are dealing with nuts and bolts. I mean, I've had 3 kids in all the years I've taught tennis. I mean, I'm going back to being a volunteer coach. We're at 50 years now.
Right.
This would be minor. That these are low numbers. If I taught hundreds of kids, which think it's more like thousands, but indirectly, I've definitely taught thousands. But I had 3 kids because I'll tell parents, I said, when your kid turns 16, that summer they would be much better off if they took the entire summer. They worked at McDonald's, then they worked on their technique. Go to the backboard, and they overhaul their game. They make the changes that they should have made earlier. And I do think that is one thing, is that a lot of times people don't meet someone who is a technician, but yeah, getting your hands dirty. When you look at,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Europe. I remember one summer going to all these months actually of going to 14 and under tennis Europe matches, and the kids that are from the countries that are not doing so well economically, it's amazing that
Yeah.
those are the kids that are doing better. Hungry dog hunts best. Um,
Yeah. That's definitely true. Yeah. Um, like these I'm curious. It's, they have less risk, or willing to take more risk. Um, some people who don't have much, so that kind of happens too, where they're more successful. They don't really have anything else to fall back on, or anything else, so they put more into it, as you said. And my other question, and I asked you this before, as my game as a tennis player, I was more, didn't really have any big shots. I would be a grinder. I'd keep the ball in, and I'd wait for my opponent to miss, and it would work up until a point. But at the next level, well, you need that extra weapon, the way to win points, the way to do that. And for some reason, I didn't have that, extra pop or on the ball, and couldn't really. But my question is, when you've coached hundreds and thousands of kids, so do you train them to have that weapon first, or do you train them consistency, and then add the weapon later? Um, and what I found is it's really hard to add a weapon later to a very consistent player. They're just used to hitting like this and being very careful. And another quote is, "You can win a match by taking too much risk, but you can lose a match by or you can lose a match by taking too much risk, and you can also lose a match by not taking enough risk."
No, like Joel Trucker. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say I've been in this situation where I've played a match and I'm playing real safe and real cautious, and I'm playing, and I might win the first set, but the next set I'm almost giving a lesson to the guy. I'm making so many balls and making them hit so many balls. They're starting to get a rhythm. They're starting to play better and better and better. And boom, they take the second set, and same kind of thing. I'm just like giving them a lesson because I'm just making them hit so many balls and keeping so many balls in play, and they're just and then they end up beating me. So, but yeah, that's happened to me plenty of times. So you gotta have that kind of weapon if you want to. Want more advice to maybe an upcoming player to develop a weapon, and then I think it's easier to add the consistency.
No, it's well put. Joel Trucker, he's a big time journalist, and with Vic Braden, he wrote an article on John Nienagel's work. It went all the way to the cover of Tennis Magazine, and I'm not sure if it's up yet, but Yvonne, who I work with, is putting it up on the website. He corrected me. I was saying about going to the net is a risk, and he said, "Don't call it that. Call it an investment." And early on, if people were to play big kid tennis, if the coaches were more clever and say, okay, you can only win a point by hitting a volley or an overhead, or the scoring system, you get a +3 if you're win the point at the net.
I like that.
Rambo, someone wants to challenge their intellectual tendencies, they need to watch the series of Rambo movies. The biggest weapon or the best weapon is the mind. But no, kids need to work on offense. But you need to have the balance. You need to have defense and offense. Briefly, I spent some time with Australian Nick Horton, and he had beaten Kyrgios in the 12s. And I said, "What was Kyrgios like in the 12s?" And he was just going big. Gonzalez from Chile. Is it Fernando Gonzalez?
That's it.
When he was younger, his father always had him playing with older men, and he didn't want to play with older men, so he would just go out and just tee off on balls. But so no, you how's it work? How's it go? You're better off to be the one ball blast than the forever push. So when you were younger, no doubt you beat people with your legs. You were fast, you were quick.
And you want to win. So you don't develop that weapon. You just kind of like, okay, this is working. I'm just going to do this. But at some level, it just doesn't work anymore.
I got one question. So you have to have that balance between offense and defense. But yeah, if people go too long, again, Joel Trucker, what a bright guy, brilliant tennis mind. He said, if you tell a kid at 15 and you start going to the net, it's like they're learning a third language. They're just going to be struggling big time. How about yourself with you're 47, your fitness, you're thinking about playing age group tournaments, or are you done with tournaments?
I think I'm done. I think I'm done because I just don't want to that anxiety and that pressure on myself and everything like that. Well, who knows? Maybe I'll change it because being in shape in the senior division can really be beneficial. And I'm still in really good shape. So who knows? But I don't know if I want to go through all that. I played enough tournaments.
That's the last question. Obviously, put the time and energy into your son with tennis and other sports. But how many tournaments do you think you played? Do you have a number for that?
How many tournaments have I played?
Yeah, in your lifetime. You're way up there, right?
Professional tournaments over 300, over 500 professional matches, maybe over 400 professional tennis tournaments. Unfortunately, I lost probably 300 matches out of 500 matches or something. But
How many weeks would you play a year? You have a number for that?
I would play full 25. From 2001 to 2013, I played 25 plus tournaments. I played almost every tournament on the USTA Futures circuit from 2001 to 2013. I played almost. There were some in Northern California that I didn't go to, but other than that, I would play 25 weeks plus for 13 years. So you can do the math on that.
Well, I can tell so many stories. I mean, if a kid shows up to work with me and they bring a pillow, I know I'm in trouble. With if someone's lived in a van, they can get by without having a pillow. Pillows are soft. You know, I told someone I'm going to write a book. This is a true story. My mother's expensive pillow is missing. So I have players. Many times now in my career, I have a place now with 8 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms. We can sleep 20 people,
Wow.
but we're not necessarily, going about it to book the place. But if someone shows up with a pillow, but it's a true story. A young player, he showed up with his mother's expensive pillow. I won't tell you who the kid was, but it was Bud Schultz's son, Christo. And it's like, where's the pillow? And Christo, he thought it was pretty comfortable, and he'd put it in his room. And that was it. I said, this is the title of the book I'm going to read. My mother's expensive pillow is missing. That's one thing with cell phones today. I mean, people are in just constant communication with their parents. And rightfully so. I mean, parents would be so paranoid and so on edge if they're, especially, you wouldn't recommend a gal to do it, but a couple guys are going to try to play tennis and rig it up where they're going to travel in a van. That would be a smart way to do it, instead of trying to borrow your uncle's money. And I sold property to give my son Conor a go in tennis. It's not the best investment, and I certainly wasn't going to ask a wealthy uncle or somebody to say, hey, and I could go on. That's a podcast we could have on. I mean, I know you've had all sorts of conversations with all the people that you met when you were playing futures, but when people get a LLC, limited liability corporation, and it's a tough go, but I think it's great. It's a great story. Yeah. So I'm happy to be a van man and happy to be talking to a van legend. 2 years versus 10. Why don't you give us one quote, and we'll sign it. We'll call it a podcast. Johnny Valenti.
Oh,
what's you've had so many quotes.
Well, I gave a couple quotes, but the one.
You could repeat. Go ahead.
The one I didn't. This is from my friend, and this would go back to my. This is not a tennis quote, but my friend Patricio Alvarado told me this one, and it was more like drinking or whatever kind of side activity you do. Whenever you do something like that, you take a trip away from reality. So the problem is, and that's okay, like if you drink a beer, or whatever. But the problem is when you take too many trips away from reality, that's when it becomes a problem. But the quote, that's not the quote I want to go with. The quote I want to go with is the Aristotle quote of the Olympic Games. I like that one because a lot of people will talk so much, but they won't actually put themselves out there. And I'm gonna quote the quote exactly how he said it right here because I looked it up, and it is just as the Olympic Games, it is not the best looking or the strongest men present that are crowned with wreaths, but the competitors, because it is from them that the winners come. So it is those who act that rightly win the honors and the rewards in life. So I like that one. It's kind of like you have to. The winners are the ones that act on their dream. So.
Oh, that's great.
And
the late Bobby Riggs. You're not in the game unless you're in the game. I've been so lazy. I've always told people I'm going to verbatim be able to recite the Teddy Roosevelt quote quote is really along the same line.
Have you ever heard that? Have you ever heard that quote? Because you have many quotes. Another quote I remember is you would hold up your hand about I would say it's about maybe 6 inches apart from each other.
Yeah,
and say you're this much better from being a better tennis player, and it's between your ears.
Yeah, you just
right?
you put your left hand, your right hand, and 4 or 5 inches. That's the distance you are from being a really good tennis player. It's all in your head. With I love that trip away from reality. I think if people really work hard and they're really grinding it, and they go to a movie, which can be a trip away from reality. I tell people, it's like a 2-week vacation. But I think that I love that don't take too many trips away from reality.
Yes, then that's when it becomes a problem. So that's when it comes, whether it's whatever trip away from reality is, but that's when it comes a problem, because then your reality is this other place. Because we all need a break. At some point. But
well, and then our assessment, Johnny, that with our assessment, if we put you through a skills test, it's a reality test. We film your strokes, it's a reality test. We do the stats from a set, it's a reality test. But I love that. Don't take a trip away from reality. I mean, one takeaway. There's so many takeaways.
Don't take too many trips away from reality.
Yeah.
It's okay to take a trip away from reality.
Yeah,
every once in a while, but it becomes a problem when you take too many trips away from reality.
Another thing too is so many takeaways, but I agree so wholeheartedly that don't look up. The parents are talking about, they're playing in such and such UTR. Yeah. Before it was UTR, it was tennisrecruiting.net, which is still out there. And, kid be at a tournament, go, I got a tough draw, I got to play a 4-star. And I was just like, oh my God.
Exactly. And it's just, I mean, and it all comes down to my friend from Canada, Antoine Richard. And this is the extreme case, looking up his opponent, Filip Krivanovic, and saying to me, he beat Djokovic.
Yeah.
I watched the match on YouTube, and I mean, he won the first set, and then Djokovic retired. I mean, the guy, it was in Serbia. Djokovic was just there for appearance fee, probably, or something. But
here's one for you. Robert and Sherry Krajicek, obviously very successful tennis parents. So Austin Krajicek wins Kalamazoo. I'm flattered that Rob and Austin, they invite me to the U.S. Open, and so he wins the U.S. He wins Kalamazoo, so he's in the main draw. And our fact checker will check this up. I believe the Argentine, I could have the country wrong, but I think it's from Argentina, Agustin Caleri, and that's who Austin played in the first round. It's so many years ago.
I know that.
So Austin, his father wanted him to shave, and Austin's going, I don't want to shave. I look like such a little kid. So Rob says to me, have you seen his opponent play? I go, yeah, I've seen him play. I saw him play like 6 months ago. He goes, I didn't want to say very much. Is he any good? Yeah, he's good. Who was he playing?
Right.
I said, he's playing Agassi. How'd he do? I go, he won. So, that's a different story. I think if it turns into scouting, and you actually can get on YouTube now. There's the Danish player Wozniacki. There's a Canadian girl, Wozniacki, and she did quite well for a period of time. And one of the guys I worked with was in the running to be able to be her coach. And at that level, you can get on YouTube and watch somebody play. If they're a really good player, you can watch them play on different surfaces. You can watch a really good player on YouTube. So you can use it for scouting purposes. But
I mean, I think, are they right-handed? Are they left-handed? Two-handed backhand, one-handed backhand, whatever. Maybe they have a really good forehand or backhand. Yes, but I mean, they beat so-and-so, or they beat
Here's one last thing. John Valenti, how can people see some of your fun video clips, like how to open a tennis ball can? And
my YouTube channel is Mr. Johnny Blaze, and I'm hoping to put this on there. I'll put this on my
for sure.
YouTube channel. Add some pictures on there and everything, and but
Johnny Blaze, Blaze. How you spelling Johnny? NNY?
Yeah, Mr. It's Mr. MR JohnnyBlazed. Mr. Johnny Blaze is my YouTube channel. And then you can look up my tennis hacks, or you can just go to YouTube and type in tennis hack, racket hack, tennis hacks, racket hacks.
That's good.
And you will find me up there. Tennis hacks, racket hacks.
Tennis hacks, racket hacks. And what about the dreads? You still have the dreads?
I do not.
Oh,
the dreads were cut cut 10 years ago.
No, I knew that. I've seen you since then, but
you told me without the dreads. Come on.
Yeah. I had to ask that question though. You can see you without the dreads on your YouTube clips. Hey, I appreciate your time. This has been great. I'm gonna have to so many things. I tell your cousin Brad Thyroff, Scott too, Joe, but he needs to be on our podcast and tell some stories.
Oh yes, for sure.
Yeah, but no, thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, the legend.
Thank you for having me.
Van Man. All right. Good night, sir. Thanks for your time again. Adios.
Yeah. Adios. Good night, everybody.
Yeah. All right, Johnny Valenti. Episode 179 in the books. Thank you for listening. A lot of pearls, a lot of things to write down. Don't write them on the bathroom wall. But our tennis juniors especially have a tennis journal. We call those quotes mind vitamins. But that was great. Johnny Valenti. Adios. Good night.